Dr. Grant. My dear Dr. Sattler. Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Welcome to the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. Your adventure into the world of comic book movies starts here.
Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another adventure of the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. My name's Travis.
And I'm Patrick, with a special guest today.
They should all be destroyed. It's me. It's Niall McGowan from Batman.
Welcome, Niall.
Oh, thanks for you guys for having me.
Spot on impression.
Yeah. Niall's pretty good at impressions. We recently did a Batman 84 unreleased script read, and he did an amazing Joker. So
thanks for saying so.
Yeah.
It's now available through the Batman Patreon as well. If anyone wants to go have a look at it.
Yeah, I think the Joker just makes my voice hurt just thinking about trying to attempt that. At least the Mark Hamill version, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit of a mix of everything. Like I was like, I don't want to just do Hamill. I don't want to just do Nicholson. So I was just trying to create this sort of hybrid beast, kind of like a mutant, like the dinosaurs of this of this particular film.
So
perfect
Jared
segue.
Leto, I like it.
Yeah.
No, at one point I was genuinely worried. It's like, does this sound like Jared Leto? Oh Christ, I better reevaluate this entire thing.
Poor Jared.
Yeah.
He'll always have my so-called life.
Yeah. That's what he'll always be known for. How did we get off the rails on Jared Leto?
Yeah.
Let's steer it back to
He's so dreamy. I mean, how could you not get off the rails?
That is true. And actually, I've met the man, and he was very pleasant.
Oh.
So.
Wow. Like a name dropper over here. All right.
Well,
Yeah.
back when he was in the first couple years of him touring with his band, 30 Seconds to Mars, I went and saw one of their first shows. That was, I guess, first shows for their second album. But
Right. I did not peg you for a groupie, Travis. Wow.
well, it was college.
Got backstage and everything. Interesting.
Like Travis just watches Almost Famous now, and just a tear drips down his eye. Like that was just me and Jared Leto. That wonderful summer.
That's right.
Oh man. God, I wish I
What the
did
hell is
art and I
happening
could
here?
draw this, but dang it. All right. What are we here for? Jared Leto talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Jared Leto Park, where they have scientifically cloned the many variations of Jared Leto.
That is a dangerous game to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, he breaks out and he's leaving dead mice in boxes on people's doors, sending people used condoms and stuff, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, this guy's such a dick."
Oh man. All right. Well, to a lesser film, we're going to be discussing Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
1993 OG version.
Directed by some hack.
Yeah. Spielberg, I think.
It's
Pretty sure
Greebleeps.
that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Is he any relation to the Steven Spielrock who did the Flintstones the year before? Or...
Oh, jeez, I forgot about that. Oh, so gross.
He was on a dinosaur roll at that point. I was like,
Yeah.
it can't fail.
Oof. Yep. Hubris gets us all.
That's right.
Well, it's like the theme of the film, actually, as
Yes,
well, I
it
guess.
is.
You know,
Yep.
so.
All right.
I have to say though, when a while back when Travis presented me the list of oh yeah, here's all the films we'll be doing, and here's the ones that are available, I'm still kind of stunned that Jurassic Park hadn't been taken. I was going oh, I'll go for Masters of the Universe. And I'm like, no one's gonna pick that.
Yeah.
I was like, no, it's gone. And then Jurassic Park was just sitting wide open. I was
I think
who wouldn't want to talk about this?
I think because when I sent that to you, we were probably still in middle of the 80s, and I think people just don't think, to select something that's on our list years down the road, because I mean,
okay.
You probably picked that, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe.
I think one of the other ones I've got coming up isn't until like 2001 or something as well.
So, I think people just don't tend to look ahead that far. But, yeah, I mean, you their loss is your gain, so.
Yeah. That's say though, I know, I'm assuming at some point you guys would talk about like the overall impact of the film and stuff, but like I was like 6 when this came out, so this was just like this was my Star Wars, for like it was just like the biggest thing in my life for like a couple of years, up until The Lost World came out, basically. And it's just like, it's one of those things looking back and like, oh yeah, 'cause I remember I had loads of the toys, and then looking into the toys, it's like, oh, I had all of them.
Oh,
like
wow.
every single of the first run though, because I think they did 2 runs, and I remember like the initial run was like you got your Dr. Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler, and they had an inexplicable toy of Dennis Nedry.
Yeah.
That was like this really slim guy with shades, and just like didn't look anything like him. And I remember when we were playing, he always subbed for Malcolm because there wasn't a Malcolm toy at that point.
Weird. So
this random guy with sunglasses that was supposed to be Wayne Knight was like, no, that's Jeff Goldblum in our version of the universe. And then I only found out like a while later that they there was a second run with the movie where they released additional toys, and apparently Malcolm was involved with that. But like all the original ones, like we just had those. It's one of those things because there's so many dinosaurs in the movie, but they released dinosaurs that weren't part of, they had, was it like a
Stegosaurus,
kind of,
I think.
I remember the Stegos, and this, because I loved this, I had the Stegosaurus, the battle damaged Stegosaurus with a big chunk that would come out of it, and I loved that so much. And then when you got wind that there was going to be a Stegosaurus in the Lost World, it was like, oh my god,
it's all happening.
Yeah. And they had, was it a Dimetrodon? Was like a little flat thing with big spikes, and I don't think that appears in any of the films.
Right.
But it was a favorite toy back in '93 anyway, for a while. And he had like a helicopter that had like teeth on it, or like a little sticker with teeth at the front. And then you look at the movie, it's like, it doesn't look like a helicopter in that. But it was great. It was great at the time anyway.
Yeah.
And like Muldoon with his random hideous yellow jacket, and didn't look a goddamn thing like him and stuff.
I had a friend that had a bunch of the toys. I don't think I ever had any Jurassic Park toys. But yeah, my history with the movie, I was 10 when this came out, and my first, like, I associate this movie with disappointment as a child, as a 10-year-old, because I didn't get to see this in theater. But everybody that I went to school with did. And so I got to hear about it, and it's real weird. I didn't see it until VHS, which I would have thought. So the movie came out June 11th of 93. So I would have assumed that the VHS came out maybe in the fall or around Christmas time of 93, but it didn't come out until October of 94.
Holy moly.
So I waited a year and 3-4 months to see this movie. It's baffling. But I remember like everyone talking about this movie, and maybe my parents got wind that, there were some gory parts, some scary parts. I know my dad had read the book, so I think that's probably why we didn't go see it. I think maybe they just thought, well, it's probably a little too much for a 10-year-old. I don't know why we didn't see it, but I definitely remember, seeing it way later than everyone else that I went to school with. So
it feel weird because like saying like I was 6 or 7 when it came out.
Yeah,
and like it was the first film I saw in the cinema. My parents like, get onto it straight away for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
I do remember it feeling like a cultural phenomenon. Like we've had that a little bit since with like the Star Wars prequels and
right.
I guess Avatar kinda. Yeah. But like I remember at the time like I was really into dinosaurs through the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, okay.
That was my focus. God. And I remember like hanging out in my neighbor's house, like the neighbor kid's house, and then they were just like, "Oh, we're going to see the big film this weekend. Do you want to come?" And I was just like. And they're like, oh, it's got dinosaurs in it. I was like, what? And I'm like, it's like this thing, Jurassic Park. Everybody's talking about it. Have you not heard about this? And I was like, no. And then I heard about it afterwards, I'll tell you that. Oh, yeah. Because Jesus Christ, it just became... It's weird you saying like the VHS didn't come out that until a year after. So I remember getting it for a Christmas. I guess it must have been Christmas '94.
Yeah.
But I remember, it came in because usually a VHS would come in a standard sort of clear case with this slip cover.
Oh, okay.
I remember the Jurassic Park one was all black. Even the plastic around it was entirely black, so it made it look even more sort of special and stuff. And it was it was a cool looking VHS set actually.
The only thing I could maybe guess is that maybe it was available to rent much sooner, and that's when I saw it. Because I don't think we bought it. I'm sure we rented it first. So unless like retailers had it sooner, I don't remember now how all that worked. But yeah, I can't imagine waiting over a year to see this thing. But I guess
That's
did.
Full on like Bart waiting for the Itchy and Scratchy movie kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
like, how could you stand that? That'd be crazy.
Patrick, do you remember your first memories of Jurassic Park?
Yeah, I saw it in the theater. I know it was the second run theater where it's been
Sure.
out. Well, it was probably out for like 8 months or something if it didn't get to VHS like a year later. But it was like the biggest screen in the south suburbs of Chicago, so that's like where you had to see it. But,
Yeah.
Since IMAX really wasn't readily available unless you went downtown or something, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember being like totally blown away, and I still get chills anytime I hear that, like, go into the island music that
Oh yeah.
comes in with the helicopter. I mean, and yeah, that was definitely, I kind of put that moment with the Matrix and the sort of bullet time scene
Okay.
as like holy crap moments in movies.
Oh sure.
Because I was just like, I've never seen this before. What the heck is this? What's going on?
Like game changer kind of status.
Yeah, it's just like something that you're not expecting and you don't know what you just saw, but you like it kind of moment. So that's what I think of.
Yeah, it's still astounding too that like, because I was excited. I hadn't probably sat down to watch it in a while, and so like gearing up last weekend to be like, oh, put on Jurassic Park. I was excited about getting to rewatch it.
Yeah.
And even then, like afterwards, I was just like, that was great. That was it stands up so well.
Oh yeah.
And even this little bits like throughout that, because you're like, well, of course, the effects aren't going to look great now. It's been nearly 30 years.
Yeah.
And then you're sitting, like, there's bits at the end where, like, Velociraptor's head pops up through the vent and it falls down. You get the bird's eye view of it landing on the floor and then jumping back up. And I realized at no point that I ever questioned that was a real dinosaur.
Right.
I was just like, yep, that's a dinosaur. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
I will say I have a new view of this movie, having I had my daughter watch it with me. She's watched this forever. Like, so Travis, she watched it at 3, and you couldn't watch it at 10, I guess. But this go around, she's like, "Man, this looks so fake."
Huh.
Really?
Wow.
Oh my god.
Well,
Like that scene where they get out of the Jeep and look at the dinosaurs for the first time.
Right.
And you can tell,
Yeah.
they're not really there with the dinosaur kind of thing.
I think that is probably the shakiest scene. Like, the Brachiosauruses
Yeah.
do look very CG.
Yeah.
But I think as it goes on, it gets much more. I don't know if it's just like the verisimilitude or whatever of it just sort of gets you in, but like towards the end, I never questioned
Right,
that
right.
it was, it was like, oh, the dinosaurs are really there.
But she still loves the guy getting eaten off the toilet.
Sure.
Oh yeah,
It still
Toilet
makes her
lawyer.
laugh. Although this time she did say, "Oh, that guy's legs are so hairy. Why would the dinosaur eat that?" So, yeah. I mean,
That's the fact that he has the trousers down indicate too that like you could be like he's just fleeing to try to get anywhere to get away from this dinosaur, but the fact that he's pulled down the trousers is like, oh no, he's evacuating in more ways than one.
I never noticed
during that
his
particular
pants were
scene.
down.
well, it's weird. He's wearing shorts that are slacks. Like, he's got, like, it's almost like he has slacks that he just cut really short.
Huh.
He got to the island and he didn't realize how hot it was going to be, so he
Yeah.
just had to get
Yeah.
a pair of scissors. and
It's a
just cut
bizarre
off his-
outfit.
Okay, so he had
So-
shorts on, not that he had his pants down.
Yeah, I don't think his pants were down, were they?
I can't imagine why they would be.
No.
I can imagine why they would be. He's just seen a goddamn T-Rex break out in front of him.
Oh, man. But yeah, definitely a showstopper of a movie. It's
Yeah.
definitely, it's often compared, well, why does this look like crap? Jurassic Park
Right.
came out like 2 years before this movie.
Yeah.
Like,
I
It's
think
one of those things
Yeah.
too. Like looking into it, they're like, because I know Spielberg, he did this back to back with Schindler's List, and apparently he said like it was the worst experience of his life because when he was trying to get really into Schindler's List and stuff, he would have to be on the phone with the special effects people for like an hour every day, and he was just like miserable. They'll just ask him what he thought were really inane questions about like, how is this dinosaur, like what the toe and all this kind of thing, and he was like, it was horrible, I hated every second of it. But now it's like it paid off. Like, cause if people are still talking years later, it's like most of it looks pretty great, like nearly 3 decades on. It's like, well, they were right to call you constantly to ask minor questions because it ended up preserving how well the film looked.
I think one of the things that helps it hold up is the mixture of the practical models and the CGI stuff, because there's not as much CGI in this movie as you might think. I remember, I don't know what the numbers are, but I remember listening to one of Kevin Smith's podcasts and him talking about that there's only like, again, the numbers are probably wrong, but he says there's something like 87 CGI shots in the movie, whereas the movie he was working on at the time, I think Yoga Hosers, had like 300, CGI special effects shots in the movie, just as a comparison of like, there's not as many. The number of CGI scenes in Jurassic Park is much lower than I think you might think that there are. But it's just
it's
perfect
just the grand
blending
scale of it, I think.
Yeah.
That's the thing too, like the fact that Yoga Hosers is like, well, not only is it a pretty bad movie, it's the special effects aren't anything to talk about either.
I never saw it, so
Yeah, it's pretty awful. I
okay.
saw it. I dared myself to watch it.
Yeah.
I think like the opening scene is like okay, whereas like the Glamthrax scene, like the two girls singing like an Anthrax cover, and you're like, oh, this could be fun. And then like those two actresses, like Harley Quinn and Johnny Depp's daughter, like they're pretty good. They're like they're like, oh, I wish they had a better movie to be in because they're actually all right. But everything else is just horrendous, like just absolutely unbearable.
Patrick, were there any taglines of note that you wanted to hit?
They're surprisingly lackluster.
Okay, I know of one, and I really like it.
There's some like 20th anniversary ones mixed in. It looks like.
Yeah.
So the best one I'll save for last. We have "Welcome to ... Oh,
okay.
So kind of lazy.
Yeah.
Then we have one that doesn't make much sense. Unleash the Beasts.
Eesh.
I would never call a dinosaur a beast, really. In my head,
Right.
I know that it's referred to that way, but to me, like, I don't know why, but a beast is hairy.
yeah.
In my head,
you. Monsters are generally like maybe a little more slimy or scaly, but beasts are more hairy.
yeah.
I'm
and
with
that
you.
could be Beastman from like
Yeah.
He-Man or something that has tainted that like word or something. But, yeah.
I'm with you.
Then we got oh god, this is awful. Caution, alive inside. That seems more like it should have gone with the Alien movie, since the alien's like growing inside of people or something. I don't really see how it works with this one. Then you got the park is open. I'd put a question mark after that.
Right. That one's not bad.
I don't think I've remembered a lot of these now. It's like, yeah, they are pretty bad, actually. They're just kind of like, I don't know. Still, you have dinosaurs. There you go.
Yeah.
That's how you sell it.
Yeah.
And now, I think this might be the one you're thinking of, Travis. An adventure 65 million years in the making.
Yeah. I didn't remember the adventure part, but yeah, I remember it having something to do with the 65 million years in the making.
And then
That one feels though like that came out of like the special effects department when they were working on it. It's like, geez, feels like this movie's been 65 million years in the making. And they're like, the marketing guy's going past. He's like, oh, hey, wait a minute. Ran back upstairs. He's like, get this one down. It's like, no, we've already ran with like 10,000 caution alive inside posters. We can't go back now.
Oh, man. And then we have my favorite one. We have Life Finds a Way. I like that.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. It's weird, too, because that is, like, you know, again, that would be the overall theme of the film, is that, like, you know, you can't contain nature. It will always go beyond you because it's existed before you, and it'll outlast whatever you throw in front of it and stuff. But the only thing I would say about, like, I don't think it's really a detriment to the movie, but it is very much like, because, you know, I read the book many, many years ago, so I can only remember little bits and bobs of it, but I remember that was much more focused on, like, the chaos theory. Yeah. And there was loads of math in it and stuff, and it was much more dense in the philosophical musings. And this movie is very much more like, give you, like, 45 minutes of philosophical musings about, like, and at one point you were like, oh yeah, he actually says the rape of the natural world. Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's a kid's movie. It's weird that you just throw in that word. Yeah. But then it's just like, oh, so get all that out of the way. Boom, dinosaurs broke out. Now it's crazy adventure for the rest of the movie. Yeah. And occasionally you get a little bit of like, oh, Malcolm was right. And it's like, but it's not so much focused on, you know, chin stroking. It's all about like, no, now we had that in the beginning, so you got what we're going for, right? And now it's just look at the spectacle of it all.
Yeah, I think I read this somewhere between Jurassic Park and Lost World. I did read it, and it's interesting some of the changes that they made, but I have notes on a few of those later on. But I am impressed, I think, at some of the restraint here at the beginning, when even at the when you see the universal globe, you know, that is traditional at the start of like, some of these movies, and I'm impressed that they didn't do some kind of shifting the continents, making it look more like Pangea, like 65 million years ago kind of thing. Because I know Waterworld, which came out maybe a couple years right after this. Right around the same time, it was the same, you know, globe, but the water, either the water started to rise or it was just mostly water or something like that. I forget exactly how they did it, but I'm just kind of impressed watching it now that there wasn't some kind of gimmick with the continents on the Universal logo.
Considering too, it's from Spielberg, the guy who had like the Paramount logo fade into the Mountain Raiders, and Steven Spielberg, like that guy. I'm surprised that they were. Although now you saying that, there could be like one of these Jurassic World 3 guys sitting listening to this, but like, oh, maybe we could do that at the start and have it that the continents are all shifted around and look a little crazier and stuff.
The opening scene of this movie is so jarring. You know, it sets you up for thinking you're gonna see a dinosaur right off the bat, and then you find out it's this they're just loading this big concrete metal, you know, crate into this facility and kind of setting you up nicely into this horror scene, basically.
Well, I think that's what weirdly the other opening it reminds me the most of is the opening to E.T. Because the opening of E.T. is like that's almost like a horror movie. Like it's when I was a kid, it terrified me because it's, you know, the ominous black of the screen and then just very minimal music. And then just like putting in the basic titles, and then it goes into an opening where it's like it's not what you're expecting at all, because the way Jurassic Park was marketed is like, oh, rollicking adventure and craziness and stuff. But this is just like, I was actually considering, because I live in the house, we have a 2-year-old downstairs, and I was like, I wonder if he would enjoy Jurassic Park because he likes dinosaurs. And then I remembered this opening scene. It's like, no, this would terrify like a child. Because it's designed to terrify you. It's setting up how insanely dangerous the raptors are. Yeah. And it's like, I think it works so well, though, the ominous build of like the rustling of the trees, and then seeing the thing, like all the shots of the guy chewing the gum, and then this, you know, shot of Muldoon looking like a real badass and stuff. And it's it does that great thing that like that if you've ever taken like a screenwriting class or anything, they always encourage you to, like, in your opening scene, make sure to establish the themes of your film straight away. And this whole opening scene is nothing but just like showing you what the movie's going to be. It's like these guys are doing a thing. They think they've got it all perfectly in hand. It seems to be totally safe. They've taken every possible precaution, but it goes horribly wrong, and someone gets eaten by a dinosaur. And it's like, yeah, that's the movie. That's the whole goddamn thing.
And it's so, like, looking at it now, it's not even looking at it now, because I've always had this thought. Why is there a guy, gatekeeper, who's in charge of lifting this door? Like, why wouldn't you have that on a crane or some kind of, and I mean, that obviously
he keeps saying he didn't, but like John Hammond spared some expense.
Yeah,
like, all he had to do was a little extra money. Yeah. Maybe that's why he keeps telling people, he's like, look, I spent money on every possible thing, okay? Because he's alleviating his own guilt. It's like, that was totally my fault. They asked me to spring for the electrified door, and I was like, no, a guy can just lift it. It'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah, the fact that they have to push it into the locking mechanism with like 8 dudes, and then the token black guy dying at the beginning of a movie has to go and lift it up barehanded and hope that he doesn't easily fall over, because he could have just fallen into the the enclosure.
Yeah, because and as Muldoon says later, like they're incredible jumpers. What's to stop them from running out of the crate and then turning around and jumping back out? Yeah. But
I'm like, I know it's 93, but I'm pretty sure we had pneumatic devices and electrical switches. But so we could genetically engineer dinosaurs, but we can't automate a dinosaur delivery system.
Yeah.
Well, you do have to ask then, like, if you start poking holes in it, it's like, because it got locked into place. Like, you see the lights change. The guy lifts the door, the raptor just runs at the door, and that somehow unlocks it.
Right.
It's like, it could have been John Hammond, was just like, all right, okay, apparently I need to buy better locking mechanisms as well.
Yeah, the lights were just malfunctioning.
Locks seem to be a problem for these guys, because even Muldoon says later, I told you how many times we need locking mechanisms on the vehicle doors.
Whoa. So, what was that accent, Trev?
It failed halfway through, so I didn't commit.
I appreciate the effort and just sticking with it, though.
Yeah.
That was funny. I liked it.
I do still love the... It's one of those ones, like, if you start questioning like how...
Right.
Like the physics of it work, it'll fall apart. But the way the guy gets sucked in and he's kind of levitated up midair and stuff, it looks amazing, and it's still really effective in the film. But if you start like, how did the Raptors do that? Like, how many of them are there in there? Is there 3?
At this point, there's 3. Yeah, there's only ever 3 in the movie, I guess, because unless there's a big gap of time between this and when they visit the park, because he says that they started with 8 and then they're down to 3. So I think there's 3.
So I'm wondering here, like, with it'd be a thing like I only really noticed it this time, but I was wondering if it's supposed to be a through line of you see through the grating, like Muldoon presumably sees through it, and he sees the raptor looking at him. And it goes on at one point then about like, they remember, and like the big one, you can see she's figuring things out and stuff.
Yeah.
And then when he gets attacked and killed himself later, it cuts to a similar shot of a raptor watching him with like the snake going across the branch. And I was like, is it supposed to be that is the same raptor? And it's not even killed him like herself.
Right.
It's assigned other raptor. It's just more like, I don't even want you as food. I just want this guy dead. And it's just sort of set up circumstances like, there you go get him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how he meets his demise. It's kind of the description that Grant has to the kid that he terrifies for
the
rest of his life.
Well, I think that's really great too. And like when it gets to that next scene, and again in terms of screenwriting, is the amount of stuff they set up.
Oh yeah.
In like this, like all of these little things that pay off later about exactly like the raptor claw and like the way it kills you, and there's the whole birds analogy, and it even mentions about like, oh, you think its movement is based, or its size is based on movement, like T-Rex, and then that comes up again later, and it's like, oh my god, they packed so much into this little scene of like, oh, this is all stuff you're gonna need to know to like for the rest of the movie to pay off. It's like it's really really well, really tightly written in that regard.
Every character has like the perfect intro, like exactly what they are, who they are, for like everyone introduced.
Sometimes though you're wondering like, did a raptor like kill Grant's family or something? Because he's so like serious when he talks about them.
Yeah.
Because at one point, he takes them so seriously in that scene, and then later on, he's like, "You bred raptors." And it's so dramatic to him. It's just like, has he had personal beef with a velociraptor in the past somehow? Like, what the hell happened to this guy? I think he's so just like, oh, T-Rex, fine. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you got a T-Rex, whatever. But then a velociraptor, like, you bred raptors. How could you do that?
Yeah.
I assume another paleontologist told him that story as a small child and scarred him, so...
Yeah, he's probably spent the last 15 years telling people how scary raptors are, and now it's like he has to commit to being like, what were you thinking, you madmen?
That's the thing too. I remember there was a fan theory going around for a while that kid was supposed to be Chris Pratt from the new movies, that he would grow up to be. In some ways, I'll be like, I'll take it. Yeah. Like, he got freaking traumatized by Alan Grant, and then he dedicated his life to getting over his fear of velociraptors. That kid actually is, though, if genre movie fans will recognize, that is the Dream Child from Nightmare on Elm Street 5. Okay. The Dream Child.
I think I think that kid had a brief, like this was, I don't know when Nightmare on Elm Street came out, or that one, but I think he was in a couple episodes of like Full House around this time, so that kid was having a good year, basically.
Yeah, I think Elm Street 5 was 89. Okay, because it's in. You see the poster for it in It, and it also had the poster for the original Batman. Huh. So it's like, it must be 1989 then, if that's what they're pitching, because it's in a cinema. I think when you see them.
You were talking about how perfectly they set up some things and callbacks, and they come back to things later. The thing with the raptor claw that he introduces here with this kid, it comes back up when he's with the kids and he just tosses it away. And I think I'm glad that they don't use that raptor claw to somehow defeat, like at the ending, I could see a draft of this movie being like, and Grant pulls out the raptor claw and cuts the rope that drops something on to kill the final raptor or something like that. I could see someone doing a version of like I said, of a script that may have had that. I don't know. It just I'm a little surprised at the restraint, and I shouldn't be surprised because Spielberg knows what he's doing. But yeah.
I will say it as well, though. I put this up when I was watching it last week, but like, that kid saying like, "Oh, that's not very scary. It's more like a 6-foot turkey." And I was like, if I saw a 6-foot turkey, I would freak the fuck out. Like, because turkeys are terrifying looking anyway. If you actually look at them, a 6-foot one I'd run a mile from that thing.
That is a good point.
That's also one of those things too. Though, of like watching this through adult eyes, where you start becoming more interested in random little things. And maybe it's through like doing a Movies by Minutes podcast, but they offhand mention before that scene you get Gennaro, the toilet lawyer.
Amber
he
mine.
shows up to the excavation site, and you get the Grant's like me, he's a digger, which also makes it seem like it's going to be a horror movie or something.
Yeah.
As the guy who says that is the guy who shuts down KACL in Frasier and makes it all Latino all the time and stuff. So whenever I see him, it's like, oh, that guy.
That's Miguel Sandoval. He's a that guy. He's in all kinds of stuff.
But I think that they mentioned in that scene that John Hammond's daughter is going through a divorce.
Yeah.
And I became fascinated. Oh, I didn't remember that detail.
Right.
And now I'm just like, John Hammond's so chipper all the time. I wonder. And then the kids are there. I'm like, are the kids there because their parents are getting divorced? Yep. And then that's in Jurassic World. They did the same thing.
Right.
They turned out the parents are getting divorced the whole time.
Yeah.
I became weirdly fascinated. I wonder, John Hammond, is he so happy because he knows his family's miserable, so he's just trying to like, no, everything's great, everything's just fine. And then I was starting to get into things like, is Dennis Nedry his son-in-law? would that be why he's so hard up for money?
Oh.
Like he's like full of like, he's had arguments with him before. He seems to be out of money.
That's funny. Like, he does say thanks, Dad.
Good, okay. So they came out and Michael Crichton's ghost came and said like, the whole time Nedry was actually John Hammond's son-in-law. I was like, it answers a lot why he's so vindictive towards the whole park in general, and just so like, whatever, I'll shut it down. Who cares? I'll do corporate espionage for a different company. Which also the name of that other company in the book I recall is Biosyn.
Yeah.
With like SYN, which is synthetic. But like at one point Crichton was probably going to call engine Biosyn.
Oh,
because it's so on the, and then it was just like, it's too on the nose to be, it's a biological sin to have these things made. So it's like, I better get rid of that, but I don't want to get rid of it entirely.
Right.
So
We'll table
the
that.
other company is called Biosyn now.
Yeah. I love how this movie just it freaking moves, like
Oh yeah.
like 16 minutes in they're heading to the island. 17 minutes in they're heading to the island, and they've already, it's already been like 4 or 5 little scenes already, kind of setting up the raptor cage, the Gennaro at the amber mine, and then Grant, and then you meet Hammond, and so I like how quickly like it assembles everything, and you get these guys headed to the island. And there was a lot of stuff there that I didn't understand as a kid, but it's like as I watched this, as I grew up, I would understand more and more. And of course, like now easily being able to turn on subtitles to watch this movie, like you pick up even more, because most of the details of what Hammond is talking, when Hammond is talking to Alan and Ellie in the trailer, I missed so much of the detail there, or the understanding. Like I never understood why they got so excited and agreed to go on this trip, but now I understand. Hammond is going to give them, is keep funding them for like 3 more years, and I never understood like what that meant, basically. There's a lot of stuff like that in the movie that, like I said, every time I watch it, it's like, oh, okay, I get that now. Or
it's also little things too, like where they've tweaked the characterizations.
Mm-hmm. And
a lot of it is that you could say it's to do with Spielberg's own auteur kind of thing, because Spielberg's got a real thing because he's a child of divorce, and he has a real thing about absent father figures and stuff like that. You see it in Hook. Friggin' E.T., Elliot's dad's gone, he gets a substitute father in E.T. and all this kind of stuff in a weird way. Mm-hmm. And in the book, as I recall, Grant's totally okay with kids. He has no beef with children whatsoever. He's just totally fine with them.
Right.
And then they make it like, no, he's like an asshole who doesn't like children.
Yeah.
He's like, who could not like whimsical children? Dr. Alan Grant does not. I should say as well, I think I've mentioned this in various podcasts, because it's a matter of local pride where I come from, but Sam Neill, he's down. I think he counts himself as a Kiwi, like a New Zealander guy. But he only moved to New Zealand at the age of 11. And before that, he grew up in a town that's about 5 miles up the road from where I grew up. He grew up in Omagh in Northern Ireland. So he is, to us, he's an Omagh boy.
Nice.
Actually, when they were filming, there was a house I lived in Liverpool, and out the back road, they filmed Peaky Blinders with Cillian Murphy and whatnot, and Sam Neill was there, and like me and my housemate at one point, because we always used to refer to him as the Omosaurus Rex. We wanted to hang a big banner outside our window saying "Welcome, Omosaurus Rex," and we just never got around to it, because, to be fair, at that point it's like it's all good in concept, but then it's like, well, we don't want to actually do it. But yeah, particularly when you're a kid who's obsessed with Jurassic Park, finding out that the guy, like the main dude in it, grew up only up the road from where you did. Holy crap, that was exciting.
Hell yeah.
So every time he talks about New Zealand, and he's kind of like, oh yeah, my homeland of New Zealand, it's like, don't you ever forget where you really came from, Neil. All right.
I just now started wondering, Dinosaur Neil from The Tick, if that's where they get the name from.
Well, it could be. I always remember thinking it was weird, actually, that he wasn't like a bigger star after this. Sure. Because Sam Neill's been around. He's he still works all the goddamn time.
Yeah.
But I kind of assumed that was going to be like a stratospheric rise, and I guess no. It's like, no, he is more just a kind of character guy. Mm-hmm. Like and even in many ways, he doesn't really suit being the lead. Like he's just sort of like, Grant is a weird role.
Sure.
Where it's like, yeah, this guy, he seems like he would be more like just like a side character, but he's sort of, I guess he is our hero.
And it's weird because it's not an action hero role. I think like if you would have looked at the character posters, not that they did those, for this movie, you would think, well, that Ian Malcolm, he looks like a kind of a tough, kind kind of guy with like when he's various scenes where he's standing there and is all black, unbuttoned down to, like he looks more of the action type, and then he's sidelined, halfway through the movie, after the T-Rex encounter. So yeah, it is interesting that they do kind of make Alan Grant the hero. And yeah, Sam Neill's not he's not an action star, but it's kind of that cool use of like an everyman kind of. He's kind of an Indiana Jones if he had, but he's more of the Professor Jones. Yeah,
I think apparently Harrison Ford was considered for the part. I think that for the best that they did. Well, I can't really fault Sam Neill. It's like, no, he does a great job and stuff, but Harrison Ford would have been lazy casting on Spielberg's part, because it's just like, let's get the guy.
Yeah,
I always get.
Yeah,
I'll get him in it again. He can do that. He can wear a hat.
Right.
He can swing off things. Like he can be an archaeologist. I know that. And then I'm sure we would have had many, many, long thought pieces written about like Dr. Alan Grant is actually the ancestor of Indiana Jones and all this sort of stuff written on the internet now. But like, it is just good to like just don't have Harrison Ford involved in this at all. Like, I think it was offered to him and he turned it down. He's like, no, this is just not for me. So I think at that point though, that was when Harrison Ford was like in a movie a year, and they were always amazing. It was like anytime Harrison Ford had something out, it was going to be a hit. Sure. And around 97, it just stopped. I think they made a joke about it in that movie Fanboys.
Oh, okay.
I think at one point I remember them saying like Harrison Ford has never made a bad movie, and he never will. And as they're saying that, they're driving past a poster for like coming soon, 6 days and 7 nights. But talking about another star though is you get Wayne Knight.
Oh man.
As Dennis Nedry here. This is one of those scenes like, as a kid you usually would be bored by this, but I loved him so much because at that point in life I knew him, seen a little bit of random snippets of Seinfeld. I wasn't old enough to watch it, but I knew that he was on TV and that. Yeah. And then years later he's Don in Third Rock from the Sun. So just the presence of Wayne Knight, he's so jolly and he's just so affable a presence that even when like Dodson's showing him the stuff and he's squealing with laughter and stuff,
that noise. I thought it
sounds as if that's one of the dinosaur sound effects.
That's what I thought. I thought it was the canister at first making that noise, but no, that's him squealing like almost like a pig or something. It was weird.
I think it is a weird maybe coincidence that the canister I think does make a sound and he kind of squeals, but those noises together they amplify each other, so it sounds like either the canister or he is squealing really loudly, when I think it's somehow a combination of the two.
If I was at that restaurant, I'd be looking. I'm just saying.
Nobody cares.
I know nobody cares, but that's a weird ass noise to make.
Look at the Dodson, this weird kind of Peter Fonda-esque looking guy, and I always felt bad for him because, you get his legacy now is like everyone knows like, oh, Dodson's here, like that little bit. Yeah. But as I recall, like the Lost World book, Dodson's the main villain, like he is the antagonist of the whole book, and you kind of like that actor must be like, I could have had.
I know. Yeah.
Why didn't they bring me back for the next one? Like I could have done that. And then they get that weird, not Bob Balaban looking guy to come in. And he just fills the Dodson part. Like, he gets his death in the book and stuff. And I always felt a little, like, I wonder if that guy does have, like, little... It can't not have crossed his mind over the years to be like, that could have been me. Like, I could have elevated the Lost World. Could have made it the classic that it should have been.
Well, I think it's even, like, to double down on that, I think they're bringing Dodson back for... whatever the next one is, Dominion, and I don't. I think I've heard that they're not using that actor. Like they're bringing the character back, but it's not going to be that guy.
Bring back like Peter Fonda. Just like, oh no, he's dead. It's like, oh god damn it.
There are
that guy's just still waiting by the phone. Just come on.
There are several things like reused from this book that end up making it into Jurassic World the movie. And I remember in the book, in Jurassic Park, Hammond is not the lovable grandfather type that he is in the movie. He's not the cheerful, nice, Richard Attenborough, the way he plays him. He's more ruthless. He's more, money hungry. He's not a nice guy. And in the end of the book, he meets his demise when it's even like, it's very late in the adventure. It's like, I think as they're getting ready to get on the boat to get off the island, he goes kind of for a stroll, oddly, and then falls down a hill and gets eaten by some tiny little dinosaurs. That scene kind of gets used in The Lost World when one of the bad guys kind of falls down a hill and gets attacked by a bunch of those tiny little like chicken-sized dinosaurs. And even the
Compysaurus. I do also know that guy too. Is one of those weird things from childhood. Is like if you had a toy of it, you'll remember the name. I remember that character's name is Dieter Stark.
Yeah.
Because it's 97. It's like, oh yeah, I had that guy, Eddie Carr's the bald guy who gets eaten by the two T-Rexes and stuff. So I had a toy of him.
Yep.
And of course now he's played by Peter Stormare as well. Yeah. So every time I see him, it's like, oh, there's Dieter Stark, who's been in 50 million other better movies. But he'll always be that guy to me.
I think even the beginning, the inciting incident of the book is the scene from Lost World where it's like a family takes their yacht and they picnic on the beach of this island or something like that, and it's the little girl gets attacked by those same dinosaurs, and that's what kicks off the need for them to have like people come and sign off on the island. And so it's interesting and how much gets recycled.
It's weird because if you use that scene in this movie, and even as it stands, like there's been someone like that guy, I think was Joffrey, I think you call the guy who gets attacked at the beginning. If he's dead, like I don't know if they clarify if he's just mauled or like I'm assuming he is just flat out dead. The way that Hammond is so enthusiastically bubbly and going on with everything's great. It kind of does make him seem like he's a bit of a callous kind of asshole, because he just doesn't care that like, oh yeah, someone was murdered here. Yes, that did happen, and
he's definitely
we probably shouldn't bring in children to the park straight away. But
he's definitely got a dark side to him, because even when they introduce the raptor cage and they're watching, the look of horror on Ellie's face when they're she's watching them just maul this cow. It cuts to Hammond, and he's looking at her and at Grant and has this weird smile on his face of like, wow, you're impressed, aren't you?
Yeah. The thing is too, like Richard Attenborough, in many ways, like particularly over here, he would be like, oh, he's like, Uncle Dickie, they used to call him, because he's such a cuddly presence and stuff. But at the same time, he was in 10 Rillington Place, where he played like a really vicious, like has sexual assault in there. He's a murderer. It's all based on I think it was a true story. 10 Rillington Place. Oh yeah, John Christie, I think he called the guy. It was like an infamous case in England. Killed a few people, and he's such a creepy presence in it. You wouldn't think it's the same guy. So he would. I don't think that Richard Attenborough wasn't capable of playing Hammond in that fashion. I just think it seems more of like he's kind of going for like he's almost like a part of Spielberg in his own way, because Spielberg always comes across as such an affable, friendly, bearded, jovial presence, and he is kind of like, look at this wonderful thing that I'm showing you and stuff. But,
Hammond's a bit of I don't want to say phony, but he's sort of putting on a facade the whole movie. Like, you know how he constantly has his catchphrase, spared no expense. Yeah. Obviously, the opening scene says otherwise with the manual gate operator. And then something I never could hear properly without putting on the subtitles is whatchamacallit, Newman says to Dotson after he says, don't be cheap on me, Dotson.
Oh, yeah.
He then goes, that was Hammond's mistake.
Right.
Maybe it is that actually is the underlying theme of the whole movie. It's like, don't be cheap.
Yeah,
because it always pays to pay up, basically.
And then like later on with the whole schematic thing, he gets really mad about saying he could read it.
Yeah,
when he obviously can't. Like he's just full of bluster and I don't know. But then you got the other thing where he's popping somebody else's champagne. Like he's just like this arrogant thinks he knows everything asshole, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I kind
it
of
was
like to
you put him-
think of him as like he is a showman. You know, he's an entertainer.
Yeah.
And then when he
He's
tells
like
the
P.T.
story,
Barnum or something.
yeah, when he tells the story about the flea circus, it's like,
Yeah,
you're
that makes
you're
sense.
kind of just a carnival barker. You know, you're just a man who's trying to put on a show, and that plays into obviously the illusion and what Ellie tells him about control and all that. And I mean, that's like you said before, that's the theme of the movie is man thinking he can control nature, and you know that getting just shoved right back into your face.
I think that's okay when it's a flea circus.
Right, the fleas
or a
aren't
regular
gonna...
circus,
Yeah.
but maybe not a dinosaur park.
I think it does have that real. Yeah, P.T. Barnum's a good comparison because it is like, oh, seems like such a wonderful person up front, and then as soon as you look into any detail, it's like, oh no.
I assume he took care of all of his animals in a loving way.
Yeah. Or even like just like Walt Disney, just like, oh yeah, this is like a wonderful man, just wanted to entertain children and bring wonder to the world and stuff. And then you look at it and it's like, nah, there seems to be a lot of shady things going on here. So
I will say,
they bring back in Jurassic World Dominion John Hammond's frozen head.
Yeah.
That's actually
awesome.
the main villain of the movie.
I'm honestly surprised he hasn't come back
taken
as a
off
clone.
Lewis Dodson's body and to put
Oh.
Hammond's head on
Yeah.
top.
That's a nightmare.
I feel like they do some weird cloney shenanigans in the second Jurassic World. I only saw it once, and then there was like at the end of the movie, there's some. They talk about like the little girl is a clone or something, or she was
Oh, that's right.
genetically
Yeah.
modified, or I don't remember.
She is an opportunity to like take care of like the big monster raptor they've created, and she decides not to because it's like, oh, it's just like me. It's I'm also a clone.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not the time for these philosophical musings, kid. Like it's like you aren't gonna rip people to shreds at the first chance you get, are you? So but yeah, the Jurassic World 2 was a film. I think I saw it at a matinee screening. And then about 7 p.m. that evening, I had forgot that I'd watched it. Like it was such a throwaway film.
Patrick, like you mentioned, the journey to the island. I mean, when they hit that score, it is so incredible. And John Williams' music throughout this entire movie is just it's a classic score.
Oh, yeah, really, just one of his best.
Yeah.
I'd say. Like, really, and there's like, I always thought it was a little bit not so much odd, but people always remember like, oh, the Jurassic Park score for being like it's full of magic and wonder, and it is this grand, swooping, sort of epic kind of piece of music. But the most of the main music that actually plays throughout the rest of the film is just that dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, like variations on that. And I don't think people remember that piece of music as well, because it is just like, well, that's just the scary music, just
Right.
for to actually inform the action and stuff. But yeah, everyone just remembers the main theme, which is only really played like here.
Yeah.
I think when they go in through the gates, and then over the end credits, maybe.
Pretty
I don't know
much,
if it
yeah,
pops up
yeah.
anywhere else.
Yeah. There's some good like espionage type music when Nedry is doing his, shady stuff. I noticed the score there. It's real eerie and creepy and
Yeah, I think.
I do.
No.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Patrick.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that opening that everyone remembers is because it's so dramatic and so good that that's all you think about when you think about Jurassic Park is that song, and all the others are just like sort of left in the dust. So it's almost just that good that it destroys everything else in the movie.
I think that's what the only thing that upset me rewatching this last week was that I watched it through Netflix.
Yeah.
And so then as soon as it cut to the credits, it started loading up a trailer for something else. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I went back.
I'm fully invested in this music, and now all of a sudden I'm watching a goddamn trailer for like, some random house fixing up bullcrap with Reese Witherspoon. It's like, what the hell is this? I don't want this.
Hey, you got a weird algorithm going on your account. Jurassic Park, you might like this Home Fix-It show.
Mine started playing that like game over or press play or press start documentary thing they have on video games or something like that.
Oh, high score.
But I quickly went to like, no, I want to watch these credits, and I just let the credits play and all the music play.
I forgot. I was just like, oh no, it's too far away. I'll never get there in time.
Yeah.
I watched it on physical media. Blu-ray.
Really?
Thank you very much.
Nice.
La-di-da.
But I realized the only format I own this movie in is I owned the trilogy box set on DVD, years and years ago, and then I transferred that to my computer. So I knew going into it that digital copy of the DVD was not going to be the best, version to watch it on my computer. So I ended up watching it on Netflix.
It weirdly makes things look worse. Like the tour with the DNA cartoon.
Oh man, yeah.
Like and Hammond talking to himself. That just looks so awful. Cause
it looks so grainy and
it's grainy. Yeah, it's like the high def did the low def.
Yeah, that was always a section of the movie that I would fast forward through as a kid.
I did this time too. So
oh, really?
I just wait for them to break the lap bars and get out. So
yeah,
I just don't care.
Show you like how they get a problem with locks. Like how the hell
exactly
keep the people in their damn seats.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not like Grant's The Rock or anything. He's just thump, out. And why does that ride need a lap bar?
Yeah.
Everyone's just like, if we don't make them sit there, no one's going to pay attention because nobody cares.
It's like a torture thing. I don't know.
One question, I'm only mildly more interested in it now because realizing years later that the character's name is Mr. DNA. And it's like, is that a Devo reference? Like Smart Patrol / Mr. DNA.
I
it's
don't
like,
know.
How could it not be Mr. DNA? It must. I've looked it up, and there's no. I can't find if it is or not. It's on the internet, but
what?
Like I can imagine Michael Crichton been a Devo guy. He'd be like, yeah, threw in a little reference to them there.
Watching it this time and seeing when they go to the mosquito flying around, I thought there's no way that Gary Larson from The Far Side didn't draw this, animate this sequence because it looks so much like a Far Side cartoon. I had to look it up. It was done by Bob Kurtz, Kurtz and Friends Animation. He does like a lot of animated trailer sequences for movies. Like he did the City Slickers 1 and 2 animated trailer sequences, and several other movies kind of in that general decade.
I wonder if he did Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Honey, I Blew Up the Kids.
Oh, he did the sequel.
He did that one. Yeah.
Now I do kind of want to see a Gary Larson Mr. DNA.
I know. I mean, it just looks like the same art style.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's like a dinosaur going and hanging out with a cow.
Yeah,
and they're just like, there's some sort of general malaise going throughout. But then it's just sort of, it's a joke you kind of get, but you're like, it's just kind of more weird than anything. But. Speaking of weird, though, we have also been introduced to the star of the movie to me when I was a kid, Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, sure.
It's weird now that it's only nowadays. I think the world is caught up to like how just great Jeff Goldblum is because he's finally getting like his own shows and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it was the generation who watched him in Jurassic Park kind of took over things. And I was like, you need to use this guy a lot more in more prominent parts because he's great.
I remember watching this, as a kid. I remember my dad especially had a real dislike for Jeff Goldblum, and I don't know what he would have seen. Probably is it The Big Chill and like The Fly, and I mean several of his other previous movies just for some reason really
Girls Are Easy.
Yeah, like, I don't know which performances my dad didn't like, but I remember watching this and be like, oh, I just don't like that guy. So I never understood why, but apparently it was
a little sleazy, especially with the whole like water drip on the hand.
Oh god, yeah. Oh that there's certain things that have not aged well in Jurassic Park. One is having a balding Samuel L. Jackson with like a ball patch in the back of his head. We all just know Sam Jackson is a cue ball like nowadays. Like he doesn't have, but we put him in the receding hairline. It's like, oh, it looks terrible. And this is like how insanely sleazy Malcolm is with Sattler, and the fact that like there's no, I guess you could say he gets a comeuppance because he does like get really badly injured, but it's so weird too that she's sitting with like Grant is her partner, and like remember a book I think she's just like his student.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have a relationship in that way, but the fact she's having to go like, hey, can you see this? And Grant he's not stepping in to do anything. He's just kind of sitting there.
Yeah.
I guess he's just not paying attention to what Malcolm's doing.
Well, they're weird.
And it's only then like a couple of scenes afterwards where he's like, you and Dr. Sattler, you're not are you a thing?
Yeah.
like he didn't think to just like not go in all guns blazing to try to flirt with this woman. This first goddamn opportunity he got.
Well, she always calls him Dr. Grant, so I just thought that they weren't.
It's
so weird.
It's almost vague,
It
but they do kind of.
They talk about children a lot, so it's
Yeah.
weird. But she also calls him Dr. Grant, which is weird.
I guess he's just very professional. He's like, no, we're here in a professional capacity to evaluate this park. So he is Dr. Grant. I am Dr. Sattler.
Like even at the
It
dig
could be
site.
like a kinky thing. She's just
Oh,
like,
jeez.
yeah.
Call me Dr. Grant.
Jeez. Dig me up like one of your Utah Raptors.
Yeah. I'm glad though that they didn't make her his undergraduate here. I mean, they seem to be peers here.
Yeah.
So that's good at least.
That's another person though who like sort of disappeared for a long while and now is very, very prominent. It's Laura Dern.
Yeah.
Where, again, it feels almost as if like a generation of people who grew up with Jurassic Park are like, this woman should be in more things.
Right.
Why isn't she in more things?
It's kind of
like in the early
the
2000s, she couldn't get a break, and now she's just friggin' everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the Tarantino effect where he brought in his childhood stars to his movies.
There you go. Like, and Noah Baumbach and Wes Anderson and whatnot are like, hey, Jeff Goldblum, Laura Dern, by all means, get them in here.
Yeah.
But one thing I only just found out though about, and particularly us coming off having just finished Batman Forever, apparently Jim Carrey was considered for Malcolm.
Huh.
And it's a part I can't imagine him doing it. Like I can imagine him in that role,
Yeah.
but I think it would have transformed the character from Jeff Goldblum plays him like he is sleazy and he is obnoxious and stuff.
Yeah.
But Jeff Goldblum himself is that charming that you just don't mind, and he's so charming that he became like. I think Michael Crichton killed Malcolm in the book, and then he's the star of the sequel book because he's like, well, people love Ian Malcolm. But if Jim Carrey played him, I can imagine he would be the most irritating character in the whole goddamn film. And it would have been like the bits of him gurning into the camera going like, are there any dinosaurs in your dinosaur theme park? And Hammond going like, I really hate that, man. Would have had everyone going, yes, I also really hate this really loud, annoying, gesticulating asshat who you brought to this park for some reason.
I think Goldblum plays that eccentric genius really well.
Oh,
just
yeah.
by the nature of his acting. Like even a little bit in Independence Day, where he's like the smartest guy, but he works for a cable company or a satellite company or whatever.
Right.
But he went to school with the president, and he's just like this weirdo genius. And he plays it so well, so I just can't picture Jim Carrey pulling anything like that off. So
I mean, we did have a whole movies by minutes of him playing a weirdo genius in Batman Forever. So I was like, I can definitely picture him
pulling it off though.
Pulling him off. It's indeed is another matter altogether.
Yeah,
he wouldn't have the same that charm and that he does have a little bit of here.
He's got the manic part that Goldblum has, but it's a different kind. Like it's hard to put in words, but Goldblum's just got that cadence that where he's like almost talking to himself really quickly, and he's got like another conversation going on in his head while he's talking to somebody, kind of thing. That I just find like mesmerizing. I don't know. It's just how Goldblum is. It's like what you think of when you think of a parody of Goldblum. It's that manic talking and like multiple conversations going on.
Yeah. I think I love seeing him in interviews and stuff because he is just that way.
Yeah.
Like I can almost imagine people not liking him because he essentially does play himself in most things. But like I remember like the DVD for The Fly. And they're talking about like he's going around in his underwear for so much of that movie because he's just like it's supposed to be in the early stages when he's just like really energetic and fit and stuff, and it seems as if everything's gone great for a little while. And Jeff Goldblum sitting recounting that, going like, and yeah, I did have my my shirt off for quite a bit. But did I do a little working out before? I think I did. Yes. It's like, is he talking to the interviewer, or is he just talking to himself?
Right.
Like, what the hell's going on here?
One of the best, one thing I can recommend is listening to the Jeff Goldblum episode of Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. That podcast, and the two of them just playing off each other is so great. Because it is so much of that where
actually.
They won't even say anything. Goldblum will just be like purring, making those weird little like little noises that he makes, and Conan just thrives off that kind of stuff. It's really great. Yeah, so I never realized how much Spielberg was treating all the dinosaurs in this like the shark in Jaws. Like, the less you see them, the better and more impact they make. Because it's until
they're mostly rustling leaves at this point.
Yeah, it's like when they meet the Triceratops, and shooting it from. Like, you're following Tim's, ankles, basically. And so when he clears past this brush, you see this massive, dinosaur from even lower than like a child's POV. It's a really great way to show this thing. And so you have like scenes like that are still have like heavy emotional, weight to it, seeing how excited they are, how emotional they get about seeing this dinosaur up close, still really works. And then, of course, with the T-Rex later, I mean, it's like an hour into the movie when you first see the T-Rex, and it's like he's just doing a Jaws again, where he knows that if you tease and hold it back a little bit, it'll have more weight when you finally do see the thing. So
because you get that it does it with the Dilophosaurus as well,
right?
It's like they're all peering out, like everyone, the audience is peering in to see it, all the characters are peering in to see it, and then it's just not there.
Yeah,
and it's like, you'll get it, but not for like another 25 minutes or so.
Yeah.
But though, again, they make sure to set up everything. They're like,
right.
It tells you exactly, it's a little thing comes out of its neck and it spits things at you that can immobilize and blind people.
Yeah.
So like, just remember that. That's all you need to know.
Right.
And then when it shows up, you're like, oh, it's that thing.
Yeah. Which I guess is completely made up. Like, Dilophosaurus does not have neck frills, and it doesn't shoot venom. It's more like
Shut up, Travis.
Yeah. I think they did get the crest thing that it has on its head. I think is accurate, but everything else is just made up. So.
I suppose because in a lot of ways then it'll be like, oh, if it just attacks people normally, it'll just be like a velociraptor.
Kind of,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, they just need to, because at least then with like the compies and stuff. And the second one's like, well, they're them swarming people. That's a different kind of terror and whatnot.
Yeah.
But here's one question though I found myself asking this time, and I don't know, maybe it does answer it in the book. It's just been that long that I just can't remember, but. You got, the whole explanation of how they cloned the dinosaurs. It's like, okay, so they've got, fill in, with frog DNA, samples they've got from insects that suck dinosaurs' bloods that were stuck in the tree. And Hammond's got his cane with one of them inside. And it's like, is that mosquito in particular, is that one of the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park? Is that like where they got the T-Rex DNA from? Is it the very first dinosaur they cloned he had made into a cane? It's kind of weird that they never bring up, like, I'm sure maybe Richard Attenborough in his mind had, like, I know exactly what this mosquito is and why I've had it made into this cane, but
yeah, I would
have thought they might have had a scene of, like, yeah, this is where the T-Rex came from, or this is where, like, we first cloned the Brachiosaur, and this is that mosquito and stuff, but they just never bring it up.
Yeah, I think I always just saw it as, like, he wanted one untouched, sample for himself, because I think it would be... There's no evidence of there being like a drill hole, because they show clearly they have to drill a hole in the amber to get the syringe down there. So, and they do close up on his cane amber at least once, and you don't see any evidence that it's been sampled, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So
I think it's just. I think for him, it's just a representation. It's just he wanted one for himself. That's where it all started, I guess. But
but then you get another character weirdly pops up in the following movies. They go into the raptor egg sequence, and you get Dr. Wu.
Yeah,
it was it's the priest from Oz, that guy. And they keep bringing him back for the new ones now. It's weird. It's like, oh, that guy, he's here again. What the hell's going on? But,
turned him into a villain.
Yeah, I don't trust him now.
I remember he does have a more prominent part in the book. He's a whole thing about he's very concerned, and it's kind of a thing they retool for Jurassic Park 3, I think, where his crisis is that these aren't dinosaurs. I think he says to Hammond at one point, like, you've just created mutants. These are not natural creatures. This isn't. You can't say that you've made a dinosaur because this is not an actual dinosaur. You've created a monster, basically.
Yeah.
And I think he gets killed by a velociraptor then for his troubles down the line. But
yeah, it's interesting, like seeing seeing Wu here. It's interesting to bring him back in not even the same, quote unquote franchise, but to bring him back in another trilogy of movies as as a completely different kind of character is really interesting.
Yeah. It's just it's like he's the weird through line until then you find out that he's a villain all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what? He seemed like a pretty nice guy in the first one.
Right.
I'm trying to get the timeline together.
Oh, okay.
Because at a minimum, I'd say 10 years needed to grow a dinosaur that big.
Oh, okay.
And then, but when he's talking to the lawyer, it sounds like he just put in all the fencing and the concrete moats and stuff.
Yeah. Well,
so I'm very confused as to how long this has been going on and why the security and gates are still so shitty.
I think one thing you wouldn't know from this, and I don't even know if you'd get it from the book, but when you learn in The Lost World, like, they don't even grow them on this island. There's another island next to or very close to that it's the breeding facility, basically. It's where they actually grow them, and then they ship them to this island. So you wouldn't necessarily have to have all your fencing and all your, security stuff on Isla Nublar, 100% complete if you're only just now bringing the dinosaurs over.
Okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't get that from this movie.
No, because they birthed them here at this island.
My dad worked at the Indianapolis Zoo for decades, and so I know from like his experiences there, like the enclosures that the public sees aren't always the enclosures that the animals spend 100% of the time in. There are kind of behind the scenes where holding enclosures and sort of things like that. So even if the fencing for the main attraction type enclosures isn't complete, they still have a secondary space that they might keep the animals in for the majority of the time when off hours or whatever.
Now I'm picturing a poor guy on a rowboat trying to drag a dinosaur to another island. Because some of those bad boys are pretty big. And I'm picturing like a guy in a paddle boat, like just trying to like pedal his way across the island because Hammond skimped on the transportation of dinosaurs.
The transference of dinosaurs to and from islands, like, I guess you guys will be getting into it with The Lost World, but like one of the mother of all film gaffes is just like how that, like the T-Rex in that boat and how it escaped and all this business. Man. Yeah. But then you just do get into things like, they made like pterodactyls. I was like, well, pterodactyls just fly away. How are you going to contain that thing?
Right. And that sequence was supposed to be in this movie. They were going to do a visit to the aviary and which you don't see until Jurassic World, where it is a completed dome that is completely sealed off to keep them in.
It's like one of those things that's like, oh, that's why that's the one good bit of that movie. Because it was originally from the first movie.
Right. There was that, and then this movie was also supposed to have a Jungle River sequence which you hear a little teaser of it when they're first starting the tour, and the voice on the radio says like, and something about our Jungle River cruise, where they were supposed to interact with a couple dinosaurs, but that ended up becoming, it was going to be a sequence where Grant and the kids, while they were trying to escape from, get away from the T-Rex or something, they end up on one of these boats and then they head downriver. And then that sequence ends up getting used for Jurassic World Park 3. So, and it's like scenes like that I would have much rather had the Jungle River kind of adventure sequence as opposed to the Tim stuck in the car in the tree bit after the T-Rex attack. Like watching that now, I just don't, I've never cared for that sequence because even as a kid, I always thought, why wouldn't you climb around to the backside of the tree where the car isn't? And then watching it, like, even just practically, effects wise, it just feels like, I don't know. Like I can see how they constructed this tree and they're breaking all the branches and I don't know. There's a wide shot where it suddenly pulls back and you see the car, like them climb down and the car kind of coming after them, and it shows just nothing in the background. Like it's almost like they shot it against a blue screen and didn't bother to put in trees and stuff in behind it. It's weird.
I think that whole little sequence actually is kind of where the strings show a little bit, because that sequence is and again, watching here, it's like I have to make sure this is actually a proper like goof basically that happened, is that the T-Rex comes out through that hole in the fence. It makes a hole in the fence, and then the car's sitting static, and then it pushes it over to the hole, and then the car falls down a cliff or a cliff face, and it's like, was the T-Rex flying? How is there just a sheer drop? Like exactly where it came out from. And I remember thinking like it must push the car down a little bit, like further along. Right. But no, it's the same. It's exactly it stays static. Yeah. And like it's just the I guess like if they thought of it, they were just like, no one's gonna care. People be too wrapped up in the whole movie to care about things like that.
That is the unfortunate part about that sequence is where does this cliff suddenly come from? But
it could be like, there was a last minute addition, like, we need to get a way to get these people separated. But it's such a pivotal point of the plot that Grant and the kids get separated from everybody. You'd think it'd be one of the first things they would think of would be how do you get them to be apart? Unless it originally was supposed to be through a different sequence, and then very late in the day, they're like, no, we got to do it some other way. So, but then because the T-Rex sequence is so big and iconic, you would assume like that would have been a thing that would have been planned from the very start as well. It's just like, this is hard to tell. Yeah.
Another like weird aspect of that whole, how do they end up further down on the ground, and is when Ellie and Muldoon go looking for them, and they're up, by the enclosure, and then suddenly like they're down below. Like somehow there must be an access, ladder or some way that they just were able to easily get down there and back up, to rejoin Malcolm. And it's a weird bit of editing and changing elevation suddenly that isn't really explained, but I guess doesn't need to be explained. Probably not, but when you're nitpicking it, it's like it becomes a big weird thing.
Yeah.
But no, it's jarring going from her seeing it to then bam, smash cut to them down there, and then bam, smash cut back to the Jeep. So
you always forget too, like the other parts of Muldoon, because in many regards he is built up to be like a Chris Pratt badass is in the new movies, because you forget like he's the guy driving the Jeep when they were getting away from the T-Rex and stuff. But I think now his legacy is like he's the guy who gets killed by a raptor, like and that's what all the people remember of him now, unfortunately. And of course they go, they should all be destroyed and all things like that. But I think maybe the fact that he's played by a very unassuming looking middle-aged balding man is just like he just looks like some average Joe. Like, and I think maybe nowadays they would have cast someone a lot more ripped. They would have even got like The Rock or someone in to fill that part, because like, you need this guy to be like, he's kind of the hero of the whole piece, isn't he? Right? Because he's the one who freaking knows all about the raptors, and he knows how to, although I only kind of realized the other day, And when they're talking, and looking at the T-Rex scene of like them actually fleeing, and they go, must go faster and all that business. Like, it's great. It really works well as a sequence. But then when you remember at the beginning, when they first see the brontosauruses or the brachiosauruses, John Hammond says like, oh yes, we clocked the T-Rex at 32 miles per hour. And you're like, so that thing's only running at 32. So all they have to do is drive at like 35 miles per hour. And they'll outrun it. It's like that really takes the wind out of that chase.
Well, it was a school zone, so you had to go 25.
I think that's why they have Malcolm bump into the gear shift, and it suddenly like kicks him back down into like maybe second gear, and he just loses.
Oh, okay.
I think, but yeah, it seems like 32 is not a difficult speed to achieve in a
it's wet and slippery. You got to drive accordingly to the conditions.
Right. Yeah, I guess clearly we see Nedry having difficulties.
Yeah.
Kind of in and around, kind of just before this sequence. Yeah, I do like the intercutting all the power surges and security things failing, and Nedry dealing with trying to get to his like escape plan in time and stuff. And
one of those things again too, now that if you look at things with myself in particular, coming things like in a movies by minutes lens, where you're just looking at every little detail that's on screen. On like Nedry's computer, when he's in there, he's got a picture of Alan Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And it's got a little mushroom cloud on it, and then another little he's hand drawn a little cartoon of a mushroom cloud, and then another post-it note on the other side is beginning of the baby boom. And you're like, oh, because Alan Oppenheimer is the guy like, oh, I am death, destroyer of worlds, when he saw the nuclear bomb going off. And you're like, is this, you could be like, it is, he's commenting in some way that like, well, what Nedry's going to do is bring death to this park because he's about to drop the bomb on them, essentially. Or it could be more of a comment that like, yeah, everything they're doing is like messing with nature. Much like the creation of a nuclear bomb is like, you've created an unnatural, man-made monstrosity here that can't be contained. Like, you can try to contain it, but like, you drop a nuclear bomb, you're going to have radiation lasting for decades afterwards, and you create a dinosaur, it's going to get out, and it's going to friggin' kill everybody who's nearby, and stuff like that. So, little details like that, though, like, really like, oh, they did know what they were doing when they made this movie. Like,
yeah.
So Tim fell back into the car. Where else were we at?
Yeah, just the post T-Rex attack kind of sequence with... So
you should still mention the water rippling, all that stuff.
Oh,
still works great. Still a really well built up scene. There's that thing coming through the fence. It's still like, yep, this is perfect. You cannot fault this scene at all.
Yeah, really watching it, it's like I think there's only a little bit of CGI T-Rex in that whole attack, and most of it is just the big giant practical head that they built and the foot that they use, and it's really impressive what they're able to do with a big giant puppet. That I remember watching, behind the scenes things, and it would it didn't react well to water, which they basically had to use the rain machine to make this whole scene rainy. But the model didn't work great with water. It would just start like violently convulsing, basically. So they had to work, work extra hard to get it to work. And I think it works just flawlessly.
It's wonder though, like, because Spielberg's a guy who has had infamous trouble with animatronics and water, like from Jaws. I wonder if he's just like, okay, maybe this time I just won't use any water. And then, like, well, look much better in the rain, Steven. It's like, rain's not like the sea, though, right? Like, it's not like a big puddle or anything. Like, no, just be falling rain. That should be fine. And then just like 2 weeks later, he's like, God damn it! Never again. We'll say it again. Like, this is always a thing from childhood. Is that sometimes these lines of dialogue in a film will just go right over your head or go completely past you. And
sure,
there's a couple of things in here that like I only understood fully what was being said this time. Okay. Like even like during the Mr. DNA bit, like John Hammond goes like, "Oh, hello, Mr. DNA," and it's like I always thought he saying like Mr. Deanie or something like that, but it's, no, Mr. DNA. And then you have the before the T-Rex attack, you do get Muldoon going like, "Quiet, all of you! They're entering the Tyrannosaur paddock." And for some reason, the way he says paddock, I always thought he was saying park weird. Like he was saying park, but he just gave it an extra syllable just for fun. And suddenly now it's like, oh, paddock.
Yeah,
that's
there
a
are
weird line.
There are a lot of those moments for me. Exactly. I mean, same thing as you. Just you hear things and it, because they say them so quickly, it just becomes part of the dialogue. But there were several parts in this that I don't know what was being said, but you just kind of you get context clues for what they're talking about, and you just move on. And then when you can now watch it with subtitles easier, it's like, oh, okay. Like the stuff at the beginning when Hammond first shows up in the trailer, all that dialogue about like, I have a jet standing by in Chateau, which is like a place in Wyoming. So it's like he's telling them that they're going to take this helicopter to a plane in Wyoming, and then from there they'll, I guess, head to the island somehow. So it's like all of that stuff I eventually figured out, but it's like it runs together so quickly because some of the actors are speaking very quickly. But
it's got like like Samuel L. Jackson having to deliver all his lines with cigarettes in his mouth as well.
Yeah. There's no mistaking what Sam Jackson is saying throughout the entire movie.
Again, that's another incredibly dated thing in the movie, though, is the fact that like John Arnold is just sitting chain smoking. No one's complaining. No one's like, you mind not blowing that in my face, John? But
I felt like whatchamacallit, I'm blanking on his name all the time. Newman.
Oh, Nedry.
Nedry, yeah. I feel like he's the only one that's dealing with this tropical storm. Like, it doesn't seem that bad for anybody else. It just seems like a strong rain.
That's a good point, yeah. Because the only
for
other
him, it's like flooding and like you can't see, and for some reason his glasses are fogged. And, and it looks horrible at the ship video that you see.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think Grant and the kids just hang out in a tree.
Yeah, they seem
the
funny.
the rain that they get is around the T-Rex attack. Like that's when it's raining for them as well. But it's like it's not a big deal. It's just they're getting rained on. But they have bigger problems.
Just had it to screw up his plan to get to the ship in time.
That was the thing I always used to do as a kid, though. Was does anyone else do this? With when the rain starts, you see Grant. He has his flask out the car door to fill it up with rainwater to take a drink of. I used to always try to do that when it rained when I was a kid, and you would get nothing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I used to just open my mouth to the heavens, and you got like 8 drops, and then it went up your nose, and you almost drowned standing there trying to drink from the rain.
Yeah, it's like he's actually been there for like an hour, just like, come on.
Yeah, no, it was just something I noticed this time that it seemed like it was way worse for him than anyone else.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder, do you need the tropical storm threat?
I don't think so, because it doesn't really bust anything.
I mean, it slows down Nedry, and it becomes his undoing, like you said. But does it contribute to? It doesn't contribute to the fences going down, the loss of power. I think it does in the book. I think there's more power loss because of the storm. But yeah, it's an odd element to add.
Is it because like, they know there's a storm coming, so they're sending everyone away? They have a whole thing you better get to the boats.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, but it seems like that storm just came into fruition, and Nedry's plan, I don't think... Like, how is he going to do this if that place was still full of people?
Yeah.
I mean, the alarms are off, but there still would have been scientists all over the place.
I think they're already planning to send people away, because when the tour, Wu says something like when they're watching the raptor egg hatch, he's like, "Oh, I was hoping it would have a chance to hatch before I went to the boat." So I think this is Friday evening, and everyone is leaving the island, and probably won't come back until next week or something like that. Oh. So I think they're already, most of the staff I think leaves at a given point. So
I could see most of the staff, but they leave 3 people.
Well, that's like Nedry says, like you can run this place from this office, with minimal staff. So I think it's like That's why some people are there,
I guess that would make sense then for him doing this on a Friday evening. So it's like, oh, everyone goes home anyway, so it's going to be totally fine.
That's so weird.
I still remember, though, in that little 4-year period from 93 to 97, and like the prominence of them setting up the shaving can that he hides the embryos in, and then the fact that they show you when Nedry dies, it falling down into the mud and then it getting buried, and all my friends and we were all convinced that shaving can was gonna be a major part of the sequel.
Oh yeah,
and it's never mentioned again. It's like, why are you focusing on it so much? It's just like, I guess it's just to show you that it's gone.
It was all for nothing.
Yeah, but
because even
like coolant, so it would just
right.
Anyway.
Dodgson says that it has enough coolant for I don't know what number he says, so many hours. So it's basically like that thing's going to be useless like at least a day later.
Like 48 hours.
36, 48, yeah.
So now that though Jurassic World 4, they can bring it back the shaving can.
It's also kind of like the sick Triceratops. It's like that scene or that setup, it doesn't really go anywhere. Because as I was watching it, I kept thinking, do they ever answer the what's making this dinosaur sick? I know
they do in the book. Like it's
right.
It's that it's apparently the Triceratops doesn't have teeth, so it eats rocks to break up its food, and the rocks had the lila berries or whatever juice was on them and stuff, and that's what made it sick. But I think again that is just more like we need to get Sattler away,
right?
So and it's so weird that she's just like shows up, has never seen a dinosaur in real life before, and this guy's supposed to be like the keeper of it or whatever, and she's coming over going like, okay, I'm gonna cure your sick Triceratops for you.
Right, like her pointing out like, oh, its eyes are dilated, and he's like, they are?
Yeah.
That's
literally one of the first things you check as a doctor.
Its eye is the size of a dinner plate. Like, how did you miss?
I was like, yeah, it's got brown skin. Like, really? brown.
This is a dinosaur, right?
As again, though, John Hammond just like, oh, this guy comes from like the school, like Grenada School of Tropical Medicine or something. Like, he'll do.
I think the problem I have with everyone leaving is that this is his big chance to sell the park, and he's doing it on minimal staff,
right?
Along with inviting his 2 grandchildren. Like,
I wonder.
It just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah. I wonder if everything had gone right, would they have been on the boat? Well, they probably would have gone by helicopter, I guess. But yeah, because I think the tour was only probably supposed to last, maybe, I don't know, 3 hours, maybe? Like,
oh, maybe 12, depending on how quickly dinosaurs actually showed up.
Yeah.
I still don't get that tour. Like, there's way too much territory behind those fences.
The Jurassic World did one thing correctly, is that it seems as if the dinosaurs are on full display when you get there.
Yeah.
But one other thing, though, again, like actually in terms of lines that I always misheard and things that incredibly date this movie, is it does have a bit of that 90s hacker scare.
Yeah.
Because Samuel Jackson at one point goes like, oh, that does the infamous like, you didn't say the magic word. Like in Nedry's little trap he set up in the computer.
Yeah.
And Arnold goes like, oh, please, God damn it, I hate this hacker crap. And when I was a kid, I thought he said, I hate this hack of crap. And now it's like, no, it's hacker crap.
Yeah.
And then, all the weird stuff later on, which is insanely dates it, where Tim keeps calling Lex a computer nerd, and she's like, I don't like being called a nerd. I prefer the term hacker. It's like, I don't think kids in 93 were even saying that. Like, I think that's complete fiction on Michael Crichton's part.
That, and I don't think she knows what the term hacker means.
Yeah. Like, are we hackers right now because we're currently using a computer?
Yeah. You're a computer user. You're not a hacker.
Yeah. So, it was such like a buzzword with like anything to deal with people using computers in that early 90s little bubble. It's like,
it just peaked with hackers. And then everybody saw that and they're like, wait a minute. This is really stupid.
It's just set up for, we need Lex later to to be the one to get the system back online.
Yeah.
But I think the next most memorable, and I think we might be onto a theme here with another sick dinosaur that has a sinus problem.
Oh, yeah.
And blows snot chunks all over Lex there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did wonder
Still
this time,
holds up.
actually, if it's a great scene. Like, it is, it just works really well. But if I said, like, oh, it looks like it's got a cold, and then, like, with sneezes on Lex, it's like, is she going to get, like, the cold from that dinosaur now? That's all the germs is all over her. And they don't have anything to wipe her off with, so...
It's going to be some mutant strain of some disease. Yeah, I can't imagine what that's going to do.
That would be something to throw into the new movies. It's like, oh, I ever remember when the dinosaur flu hit? And it was like, it's all from that one little girl who got sneezed on by a brachiosaurus.
Kind of do a twist on the modern Planet of the Apes stuff, where it's like the humans get a disease from the apes, and here you could have, you know, that's how it really becomes Jurassic World, where, you know, the humans all die off because of a disease from the dinosaurs.
I'm going to tie this into another childhood favorite that was mentioned earlier, and that's Mario Brothers. I think this is how you get Goombas. I think she starts to morph into a Goomba.
Yeah. One little touch that I like is when they get to when Grant and the kids get to the fence and they're about to climb it, there are palm fronds like all over the fence, and I only just realized that's because of the storm. Like, all those little palm leaves got blown into the fence, because otherwise why would there be leaves like, stuck in the fence? It's a nice little detail. It's like, oh yeah, there was just a tropical storm that would have been blowing shit all over the place. Just a tiny little detail that I actually really appreciated.
And that's the only evidence of that storm.
Exactly. Yeah.
It got real windy and leaves fell.
Yeah.
It's got that the whole fence sequence though has action beat written all around it.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's that you know, people have heard Kevin Smith talk about his, you know, he's writing Superman Lives, and they insisted like you have to have a scene where Brainiac fights polar bears and stuff in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's an action beat. You need to have one like every couple of pages. And it just seems like, nothing's happened here for a while, so we got to have this thrilling sequence of them climbing over a fence. And in fact, the sequence does work, but it's like, it does very much feel like nothing's happening. We need to throw in a thing for some inciting incidents. Yeah,
that's how I felt about the tree climb, and then after that you get them walking through the valley, and there's the Gallimimus kind of herd running towards them, and that turns into the appearance of the T-Rex, which is not really a big action scene, but it is a little bit of a... I mean, they get chased for a few, you know, seconds or whatever, but it is, there are definitely those sequences of like, well, we need some action here. They're well...
I think they did cut out a thing where... because you do get like a really good sequence of Ellie going to, you know, try to turn on the power again.
Oh yeah,
and I think you were supposed to see Samuel L. Jackson get killed before this, but they cut it out. I think it was to do with the production itself was actually hit by a tropical storm, and destroyed the sets and stuff for a little while. And I think Samuel L. Jackson was due to come back, and they're like, nah, there's just no point now. That set's wrecked. So
I think it works. It works great as the implied horror sequence that you get, you know, seeing his arm like that was one of the things that as a kid, before I saw this, I knew that something happened with a dude's arm, and like that was a big, like, you know, the kind of implied gore with that and when they find Gennaro's body, like when they find Malcolm, it's like, oh, I think this was Gennaro, oh, I think this was too, and you never see it, but that implied gore is really, really good.
I do love Ellie's response though, again, because we have seen that like she was, you know, she showed up at Jurassic Park, got instantly hit on by Malcolm, and then her just thinking that like Samuel Jackson just putting his arm down over her shoulder like a kind of, hey baby, like she's like, oh, Mr. Arnold, thank God. It's like, why would he say hello by going like draping his arm over her goddamn shoulder? She's like, I get this all the time. The sleazeballs around every goddamn corner.
I think this viewing, I've only just thought, you know how the raptor just busts through while she's turning? How did that not just take down the power again? Like, that thing, it did some damage at least. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Must
just
not
a
have
weird
been.
sequence of like, why is it there? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
It's a
That's funny.
bizarre like gotcha moment.
And
That
then
probably took out power to like the kitchen, you know.
John has the ice cream again.
Yeah. Yeah. We just got cold again.
Because like, I guess it followed Arnold in there, and it hid behind. I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah.
We do
How did
get,
it rip off his arm and there's not like buckets of blood all over the place, you know?
It does have the floor gratings, so maybe
that's
it all
true.
dripped down through that.
Yeah.
You do get a lot of was now a great cultural meme of Laura Dern crying. She has a fantastic cry face, and like when she flees out of there and like shuts the gate behind her, she does like, I was like, there it is. That's it. Like, I think there's an Instagram
movie-
account by some woman who looks a lot like Laura Dern. And
Okay.
she just does pictures of herself crying. Just like hashtag Laura Dern crying.
Nice. Yeah, this movie, it's like it had such a resurgence with memes. You know, it's like people like, I don't know if people just went back and watched this and was like, oh my god, that I need a GIF of that, or you know, it just became like there's so many memorable scenes or images of this movie that are so well used with GIFs and memes and stuff today that obviously they weren't intended before, but this is
Travis, you sent me my favorite one.
Yeah.
Of Jeff Goldblum in his sexy pose
His
with or not Hammond, with Grant leaning in on his chest, and it's like moving up and down like the Triceratops.
yeah.
And
Well,
that
and
look
I know
of
there was,
glee.
I don't know you guys know, like in I think it was down in London, they built a statue of Jeff Goldblum in that.
Yes.
Nice. And that's
remember
it's
seeing
like
that.
his creation of Adam pose, I think.
Yeah.
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 It's very Greek god looking.
Yeah. One thing, like watching this kind of section of the movie, and it sets it up with Muldoon and her going to the maintenance shed, and you know there's sudden suspense because the raptors are loose, and again Spielberg using the Jaws technique with the raptors. And it's like we've seen glimpses of them before, and obviously they've been used with the feeding sequence. Like you just hear them, and here it's like you finally get to see the raptors. And one thing that I kind of wish they had done would be to edit the Ellie in the bunker turning on the power and dealing with the raptor. Is somehow edit Muldoon's hunt around that better, because it's like as soon as Ellie runs to the shed, we don't see Muldoon until Ellie gets back out of the shed. So it's almost like are they still in proximity of each other? It's just this weird, like we pick up Muldoon again once Ellie's threat is over, and then you know his little Muldoon's kind of hunt and quick demise happens. And it's just, I wish, I don't know, it feels like they should be happening at the same time, not one right after the other.
Yeah. I do have to wonder as well, like, because we as the audience have been informed by Grant how velociraptors hunted, and you know he'd never seen one in real life at that point. Still hasn't at this point in the film, actually. But it's just bizarre. Muldoon is such a good game hunter, and he seems to know his profession well. How they got him with the simplest of tricks? It's like that's their archaeologists know that these things did that. How do you, who have dealt with these creatures for so long, not know that like that one's there, and clearly it's because another one's right beside me? It's bizarre.
Just another.
It's just a pack animal technique. It's not necessarily even unique to a dinosaur.
But yeah, maybe it makes Muldoon kind of like the Boba Fett of
Well, it
Jurassic Park world.
It's yet another example of the hubris. You know, it's this great hunter who thinks he can hunt anything, but you know, here he is trying to control nature again, and he gets quickly learns his lesson.
That's just you'd think though, as a great hunter, Like that would
He
be
should know.
like, it's, you shouldn't fall for it. Like, fair
yeah.
enough if they led you to believe that was going to happen, and it turns out he actually knew it was Poseidon the whole time, and then it kills him some other way. But like there's an extra twist for the audience, like, oh, you didn't see that death coming, did you? But it just seems like, again, it's 93. They're just like there's only so many things we can do. Okay,
Right,
so,
right.
And it is, to be fair, clever girl and all that is a good line. And it is a good death, but it is very much like, this guy should have known better, quite frankly. Like, if it was just that like they brought him in that weekend and he happened to be like say Muldoon was like, oh, he's a doctor or something, but he likes hunting. And he's like, I can take on these animals, and then, him being big-headed got him killed. But the fact that he's supposed to have dealt with this creature for presumably years at this point.
They've been up for over like 24 hours, so maybe he's just tired. Because morning.
Like you were saying, like, make Gennaro the big game hunter. He's the lawyer, but he's also got hunting, big game hunting as a hobby. So make him that guy and make that his death or something. That'd be...
I kind of do that. There's not many things in retrospect I like about The Lost World.
Yeah.
But I do like Pete Postlethwaite's big game hunter character, because he has his whole thing about getting a T-Rex, and then as soon as he's kind of done his task, he's like, no, I'm out. Like, he just walks away kind of with honor, basically, of like, no,
he's like,
I did what I wanted to do, and I got my thing, and I'm out. I'll see you.
He's like, I've spent enough time in the company of death, as he walks off. Yeah.
So,
Timbo is a great character in that movie.
I think it might just be as well, like, oh, you got a good couple of good lines, and you got Pete Postlethwaite. So it's like, you're gonna get something good out of this. Like, if nothing else, that will deliver.
That's when you kind of get the kitchen scene with the raptors. I think shortly after that, and I think it's one of the most memorable sequences from this movie for sure, and it holds up great. I think there are very few bits in it that I think I can tell that that's a practical model. The legs that are just kind of being walked around the kitchen. But I think for the most part, it just really holds up. And that's another little attention to detail thing. When Tim leads the one into the freezer, it's like the floor is covered with wet, slushy ice because the power's been out and a lot of things have been melting. So it's like yet another little attention to detail. I don't know why the door would have been open, but
I know they did things too, like you see the feet coming in and you see the toe tapping.
Yeah.
And apparently they excuse that as like that raptors communicating by a form of Morse code. Like, it's the vibrations it's sending. It's the signal to the other raptors to come to the kitchen and stuff. I was like, okay, that's nice. That's nice little details you're throwing in there.
One little weird thing, though, speaking of the raptor, like the claw, talon on the foot, is when Grant is talking about he's explaining to the kid, the 6-foot turkey, like, he says it has a razor sharp talon on its middle toe, and then you see him here in the kitchen, and it's clearly it's more on the inner toe, like where the big toe would be. So it's like, why say in one area that it's the middle toe, but then show later that it's clearly not the middle toe? But maybe it's like, oh, we engineered them to have the claw here instead. I don't know. It's just an odd little.
At one point, Grant was saying to Muldoon, like, make sure if you're ever hunting it, don't do this. And then he started mentioning, like, oh yeah, the middle toe. And Muldoon was like, ha, it's the big toe, you idiot. I'm not listening to a goddamn word you say.
Oh, I thought of another way to use the raptor claw that Grant was carrying around. Like, instead of tossing it down the tree, he could have given it to Tim or Lex, and they could have used it to, like, send false signals. Start tapping it on the floor of the kitchen and to make them confuse them. Basically, that could have been a fun way to use it.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea, actually. Yeah, that would work perfectly. But then I guess at the same time, and then the flip of that will be like, that just means the main raptor knows exactly where they are, and so they're like, so. But no, that would have been the one thing, like, I will say about the climax, because all the stuff of them going in through the dinosaur skeletons and stuff is all terrific.
Oh yeah,
and even the tension of them, trying to lock the doors and all this kind of stuff is like, works great. Obviously the graphics and stuff in computer are insanely dated, but whatever.
Yeah.
But I do think the actual ending does seem very, like, oh, we had to think of something.
Yeah. And
It's
then the
just-
T-Rex shows up. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like we spent a lot of time emphasizing that you can hear a T-Rex coming a mile away, but somehow it got the drop on these raptors.
Yeah.
They're just really pissed and aren't paying attention. See, raptors can be cocky too.
Yeah,
Think
yeah,
they know it all.
they're hubris.
Yep.
I guess it is coming in from the side, like the way it got Muldoon's. Like, oh fuck, no, they did it to themselves.
Clever girl. Yeah, it's just like the cliff thing outside the T-Rex enclosure. Like, if you don't think about it, it's fine. But yeah, the more you think about it, it's like, how did the T-Rex get into this area?
Yeah.
There's just a door big enough for this
Yeah.
this big girl?
I think they did say there was originally plans to like have them. They would skewer a raptor with one of the ribs from a dinosaur, like, and then but it all feels like you kind of need the T-Rex there so you can have your climactic roar and stuff like that, because that's how it should end. It should end on that note. So that they just randomly kill the raptors, it would just be like, oh thank God.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get out of here.
It is a good fight, and it's weird. Like, this has become a thing for these movies. We need to have a dinosaur fight kind of at the end. You know, they've built on it. They've had other dinosaurs fight in the other sequels and stuff, and it's kind of weird. Like, I don't know. I'm glad that's here. It's a great fight. It's just it's a weird object.
I can never tell if I liked or hated in Jurassic World when the raptor and the T-Rex have to team up to take down
Right.
the big new mutant thing that
Yeah,
they made.
yeah.
Because it ends in that note of the two of them kind of looking at each other like, you know what, kid?
Yeah.
You're all right. It's just really like, it kind of works, but it's also terrible. I don't know how to feel about this.
That's kind of what I mean. Like, now that they have to find ways to outdo, dinosaur fights, and I'm generally okay with it, but it is kind of like, what are they going to do next?
I think that was, again, another thing I didn't like in Jurassic World is like when they reveal to you the look of this giant hybrid they created.
Yeah.
It just looks like a kind of weird looking T-Rex, and it's like, why isn't it got like a Triceratops head and wings and stuff?
Yeah.
Like, why can't they make, because that would be the natural point of escalation. And I think they were trying to shy away from all the leaked concepts of like raptors with machine guns and stuff,
Yeah.
which is where they're kind of stuck with it. Like, well, how do you keep making this bigger and better and stuff? Like, we've done it. Like, it's, fighting a T-Rex, that's it. How do you beat that? And I think that is like a little bit of the hole they're stuck in, like, because then Jurassic World is like, okay, so it's a hybrid dinosaur that just looks like a T-Rex. The next one is a hybrid dinosaur that looks like a velociraptor.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, what's the third one? It's like, it's a hybrid dinosaur that looks like a stegosaurus. I don't know.
They're gonna have to go dragon.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because, like, in Jurassic World 3, they set up, like, oh, here's the Spinosaurus that we've never talked about before, but it's, like, the biggest thing that has ever walked the Earth, and they show it to be this, like, badass, and you see it take on a T-Rex, and they spent, these first two movies showing how awesome the T-Rex is, and I think the Spinosaurus just snaps the neck of the T-Rex in, like, in a couple seconds to show, like, oh, you thought, that was a big deal. Like, this thing is way more dangerous or whatever. And then, you get to the Jurassic World stuff, and it's like they're making up dinosaurs and genetically engineering stuff. It's like, why don't you use the size of that one or that big, sail that it's got on its back or whatever? It's like, we just forgot about Spinosaurus. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might have been people didn't like the T-Rex getting taken out. Like, people love that T-Rex. So
yeah.
When they saw it got killed by some asshole in the third one, you're like, what?
Sure.
What's going on?
Well, and
so then you have to make it in the fourth one. It's like, no, the T-Rex is the hero. It comes out and then takes on the new one and all this sort of stuff.
And one of the things I love about Jurassic World is when you see the T-Rex, and I don't think they really show it off too much until, like, it has its final moment where it roars and does its heroic roar, but then you can see, like, on its side it has the scars that the raptor in this fight gives it, and so then like, oh, okay, this is that T-Rex is the big hero in Jurassic World. And then I don't remember what happens in the second Jurassic World, I don't remember if it gets off the island, because I know there's like a big volcano threat with the island. But if that T-Rex that has been there since this movie, if it's going to be in this Dominion movie, you know that they're going to kill it. Like you know that dinosaur is going to get its like heroic death, and that's going to be, some people are going to like cry at that. So.
I mean, there were people who were convinced that the Millennium Falcon was going to be destroyed in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, that's what I think equates to. It's like, it's that thing that's been around forever. It'd be like if they really killed Chewbacca,
Yeah. It's like Alan Grant's back. It's like, the Grant is dead.
Yeah, there you go.
The world's like, it's terrible.
Get the whole crew back together, and then,
That's the one thing. I've seen people really like, oh my god, they're getting the whole gang back together for this next one. It's like, it doesn't mean anything. All these actors have signed on for lackluster Jurassic Park sequels in the past. Like it's that's not an indication of quality that these people.
Right,
Jeff Goldblum clearly filmed his friggin' last appearance in the space of a day. So I wouldn't be. I don't hold on too much excitement for Jurassic World Dominion, quite frankly. But still hold a lot of excitement for Jurassic Park, though. At the end of it, it's like it still really, really stands up as a movie. I really, really enjoyed going back to it, and it's just like it's just if it just shows you if you put in the effort, sometimes these things will stand the test of time. Yeah.
One question I had, like kind of at the end, was they made a big deal about the raptor, like when Muldoon was talking about the big one. When the big one took over the Pride, she killed two of the others. It's like, we never know which one is the big one. I assume it's the one that's watching Muldoon when he's hunting. But then once we actually see the raptors in the kitchen and inside the guest, this facility. Atrium. Yeah, like we don't know which one is the big one. It'd be nice if there was like an indication somehow of like one clearly being the leader.
Blue.
Kind of like Blue, like somehow give it like either
like Stripe and Gremlins. It's got a little coming in.
I mean, they call her the big one, so it's like they all look the same size to me. Make the other two slightly smaller, Yeah. But
that is true. Like, you think they should have it much more like, this is your clear antagonist, like Dinosaur. But
it's the one that can open doors.
Yeah.
I'm just now realizing that Grant knows everything, because he also knew about the frog DNA or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And the hunting techniques and like all this stuff.
They found out it wasn't the frog DNA later, and Grant's just like, oh god damn it, it's because it's like he jumps to that conclusion so easily. Like, that must be what it is.
Yeah.
And none of the scientists thought about it, and
but you would think like, one of them would have been like, these particular frogs can change gender, right?
He's a geneticist, hunting expert, and a paleontologist.
Yeah. But I mean, I think we're all on the same page of like, we can nitpick and pull things and point things out that don't make a bit of sense, but at the end of the day, it's still a fantastic movie that
at the end of
holds
the day,
up.
I had 1.5 pages of notes for like a long movie.
Yeah.
Only 120 something minutes or something.
I mean, it's a nice tight 2 hour adventure.
Oh yeah, it doesn't feel like 2 hours.
Yeah. It kind of, as I was watching it, it's hard to place like what genre is this, because I think a lot of the moments that stand out to me are the horror beats. All the stuff with the Ellie in the bunker with the raptors and or raptor with the arm. It's like some of it is played for really dark and scary. But then other points, it's like it's a fun family adventure movie, and it's a weird movie to try and put in a box.
Well, it's a survival movie, so inherently it's going to be a bit on the horror side, because a lot of those start off happy-go-lucky until.
Spielberg is a really good horror director too, considering say like accidentally in E.T. where like the alien shuffling about picking things up with creepy music is terrifying, but the horror sequences of this work really, really well. And of course the rumor always is that he actually directed Poltergeist rather than Tobe Hooper as well. It's like, I'm surprised he's not outright made just a War of the Worlds is very horrific as well.
Yeah.
It's never made as a flat out like ghost story horror film with haunted house kind of stuff or something. But
he wanted to with Temple of Doom was going to take place in like a Scottish castle or something, like a haunted castle or something like that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, this guy's still kicking, so
yeah.
You can still do it yet.
Yeah. Normally we do like most heroic and most villainous. I don't know if man versus nature, if there is really. I mean, certainly Dennis Nedry falls into the villain category, but I don't know. Do you guys have like a most heroic or most villainous, something that stands out? Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be Hammond.
Okay.
As the most villainous, because I mean, the sheer disregard of hubris that he displays in this entire movie.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, let's invite the grandkids to this park that's run by 3 people and a sketchy computer guy that were hired on the cheap.
Yeah.
And dinosaurs. Yeah. So let's beta with our grandkids.
Yeah. I say too, probably like I do like there's a little moment of real heroism with Ellie when they're trying to like, who's going to go down to turn the power back on.
Oh yeah.
And she steps up and Hammond's just like, well, I'm a man and you're a and she has a kind of eye roll like, oh, for Christ's sake, and just like takes the torch off him and stuff.
Yeah.
I have a penis and you have a vagina. So
clearly
it just felt that awkward.
Clearly I'm suited,
conversation.
Yeah.
But then, she as a character is continually getting things done. Like sees a sick Triceratops, is like, okay, I'm getting this sorted, and then it's like, we need the power plant back on, okay, and then she finds Malcolm, is like, oh, we need to get him the Jeep, and we need to go find Grant and stuff. It's like she is a woman constantly just let's get all this sorted right now.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
We have Malcolm.
Sorry. Oh no, go right ahead.
I was gonna say Malcolm is our whatchamacallit, I guess, damsel in distress, and also has the most heroic pose in the movie.
Yeah.
I think he did add in as well, Goldblum. I think Malcolm was supposed to just run away originally, during the T-Rex attack, and then it was him who was like, can't he do, like, maybe he's trying to distract the T-Rex and stuff, give him a little bit of heroism to just sort of make him a slightly nobler character. And I guess it does last as well. It's like, oh no, he went out, he got taken down doing something noble. So
I remember as a kid watching this on VHS and like having to kind of fast forward and pause at the right points, because when the T-Rex does burst through the toilet to where Gennaro is, if you pause it just right, you can see that Malcolm is like riding the nose of the T-Rex, and that's how he really gets injured. It's not super clear, like if you're not kind of watching it frame by frame, but if you do slow it down, you can see him, like he basically, as the T-Rex is pushing his way through this bathroom, like Malcolm is on his nose. So whatever whatever construction elements he's just destroying with his nose, like it's actually Malcolm is the one taking the brunt of all that. So it makes sense why he's so banged up, but they never really you never get a clear picture of like how he's so hurt. And then in the book he does die, but it's like he dies slowly over the remainder of the book. Like he gets injured and then slowly dies of his injuries. So
it's his leg in this, isn't it?
Yeah, I think because it's like maybe his leg gets caught in the mouth of the T-Rex as he's being like riding, the T-Rex through the bathroom, but I don't know.
I've just realized that Hammond is a Bond villain.
Kinda, yeah.
He's got a lair.
Mm.
He's got that one weird room with like the 6 projectors playing all at once.
Mm. He's got a weird little quirk with his cane, with an
amber
mosquito on it and stuff.
Yeah, he's got a physical issue. He is
the man with the amber cane. Like, there you go.
Yeah.
It's right itself.
He invites all these people to try and survive one weekend at his death traps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is like, didn't they do that Fantasy Island redo recently, where it turned out like that was kind of the twist? It's like, see if you can survive the Fantasy Island. I was like, if, like 20 years from now, like we're remaking Jurassic Park, but that's John Hammond now is like,
right.
He's gone full on supervillain. Was like, yes, I want to see if you can make it through Jurassic Park.
I want to kill people in the most expensive way possible.
He's like, I think my dinosaurs can destroy the world, but let's test it out with like a handful of plucky upstarts.
And get rid of those 2 goddamn grandkids. Just sick on the side of them.
That's why my daughter's getting a divorce. It's their fault.
Yeah.
Tim's always getting hurt.
I do feel bad for the kids at the end, though, realizing like you never see Sam Neill and those 2 kids again, like in any of the movies.
Yeah.
It's like they've got this surrogate father figure, but then they're going back to a broken home. It's like, that's actually really a bit of a bummer.
They shoehorn the kids into Jurassic World, like they're in a brief sequence at the beginning, and then it's then they bring Alan Grant back in the third one, him and Ellie.
I remember, like, Ellie's only there. She's like in her kitchen the whole time, like, talking to him on the phone.
I think it's like you first see them together and you think, oh, they're happily married and they live together in this nice house, and then it's like her husband shows up and they're of course friendly and cordial to each other, and but I don't know.
I can't remember if they established, it's been that long since I've seen Jurassic Park 3, if like why they broke up was over kids again, or because he is going into like he has to rescue some kid again in the third one.
Yeah.
But if it was just like, he didn't want kids after, like, the whole point of this movie is like, he grows to, care about these children and stuff.
Yeah.
That'd be a bit of a write-off, quite frankly. But
yeah, I don't really have much else.
No, that's
I
all I
suppose
got.
we should rate it and
It'll be anticlimactic.
Yeah, I think so, probably.
Yeah, I love it. It's a perfect popcorn movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a one too. I would be happy to. I know people, I know a lot of people now who have kids. It's like I'm waiting for them to get to the age of like, now it's the time to slap on Jurassic Park for them, because I think it was a big film for me when I was 6, and I imagine I would hope that it would stand up to 3 decades worth of development. That kids will still look at this and be like, yeah, this is a great movie.
Yeah, that's weird. I was watching it with my daughter, and she was angry at Grant for leaving the kids at the dining area.
Oh.
She's like, after what they just been through, he's just gonna leave them?
That is weirdly one of the lines I still quote, though, is like in day-to-day life is, when Lex is going like, he left us, and he's just like, that's not what I'm gonna do. And then
hold on, guys.
Like an hour later, all right, you just stay here.
So is it safe to say that this is a 5 out of 5 for all of us?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure.
It wouldn't be
for the record.
There.
Well, yeah.
No hot takes.
Yeah.
2 out of 5.
I'll tell you why it sucks.
Yeah.
I do want to share. Let's see. Brian Lockhart on the Facebook group said that Jurassic Park is one of those movies where I don't have a specific memory of my first viewing, but I just remember being blown away when I saw it. I think it's a rule every little boy goes through a dinosaur stage, and here came this movie that perfectly captures that love of dinosaurs for older kids and adults. I remember more that I enjoyed the movie so much I went to the library to get the book, and says that the movie is a perfect blend of CGI and practical effects, humor and horror, action and adventure. And then continues to say the Jurassic Park theme really encourages the sense of wonder that you need for this movie. And the movie is great, but I love how it has been the basis for several memes. So, and then he included a picture of himself, I think at like maybe Universal Studios Jurassic Park exhibit. They used to have like a big T-Rex model there, I guess.
Oh, okay.
So thanks to Brian for those thoughts.
That's a good question. What is everyone's first dinosaur experience?
Ooh. Mine, I think, I don't remember which one of you mentioned it, but the Dimetrodon.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the first dinosaurs I remember. I would go over to my grandparents' house, and there was this little, I mean, it was just a little dinosaur book, probably had like, I don't know, 20 pages maybe. And they were like the thick kind of cardstock pages. So they were, it wasn't like a chapter book or whatever, but on the cover, it had a Dimetrodon. And I was always really just fascinated by this thing that kind of looked like a Komodo dragon with the big kind of fin on its back, kind of like that Spinosaurus, but much smaller, like the size of a, seemingly it seems smaller, like the size of a Komodo dragon. But that's always the one that I can remember, like that taught me about dinosaurs, like finding out that there were once creatures, that aren't around anymore. And then, yeah. What do you guys have for favorite? Or
that was actually legit. I think mine, it's one of two. I can't remember which I saw first. It's either the Land Before Time cartoon,
yeah,
or Pee-wee's Playhouse with the dinosaurs that lived in the wall.
Oh,
like
yeah.
mice. Both rather confusing is my learning point of dinosaurs, I guess. But I think it must have been Land Before Time that got me wanting to know more.
Sure.
About dinosaurs.
Yeah. The Land Before Time was such a depressing film as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's Don Bluth. What's the matter with that guy? Why is everything such doom and gloom with him all the goddamn time?
It was very Bambi-esque.
I think they mentioned in Super Mario Brothers earlier, seeing as I knew about that before I knew about Jurassic Park, I imagine that might have been my gateway into to dinosaurs.
Nice.
If not, again, the Land Before Time might have actually done it as well.
I'm picturing you as like a first grader, and they're asking what your favorite dinosaur is, and you go, Goomba!
I do remember, I think my favorite dinosaur when I was a kid, though, was the pterodactyl, because a lot of it was to do with the toy you got with Jurassic Park. It was like a blue thing, a little button in the back that you could flap its wings, and it had bright red eyes and stuff. It looked really intimidating. Plus it had like the big beak and then a big elongated back of the head, like one of the Geiger aliens. And then obviously after this, it was kind of like a dino mania, like throughout the world.
Oh yeah.
I remember they had wasn't it like dino babies and stuff like that? It was like cartoons just about dinosaurs hanging out. And
maybe.
It's just like you obviously had Dinosaurs, the sitcom that was just like, it's Roseanne, but it's dinosaurs.
Remember was it Denver, the Last Dinosaur was a cartoon, series that I remember as a kid before Jurassic Park. It was like that, and
dinosaur that played guitar. I remember that.
Yeah. There's I'm definitely going to include the link here for a great, one of my favorite comedy bits that I love sharing with people. It's Dan Telfer, who some people may recognize. He's been a guest on Star Wars Minute several times, but I heard about him through one of my favorite comedy bits is what's everyone's favorite dinosaur. And so he goes through, and you can tell like it's crowd work, but he knows someone's going to say T-Rex. So he has like a pre kind of planned bit for why T-Rex should not be everyone's favorite dinosaur. And he goes through the whole list of like, everyone throws out these dinosaurs, and it's hilarious. So I will include that in the show notes. I highly encourage everyone to check that out.
It reminds me of, weirdly, with him been brought up earlier, Gary Larson. I think he had like, one of the cartoons for the Far Side was like T-Rex family at dinner. I was like, honey, can you pass the potatoes? And just like the little tiny arms, just like looking at each other. Like,
yeah.
Yeah,
I love a
I
good.
never understood the T-Rex arms.
Yeah.
Make no sense.
I love a good T-Rex tiny arm like meme or joke. I have a T-shirt with a T-Rex on it, and it says like row row row. Oh no, it's like a picture of a T-Rex in a boat, and it can't row because it can't reach the paddles. And
should also commend Jurassic Park as well, just for leading to one of the all-time great Simpsons bits of Principal Skinner saying he's going to write the great American novel about a futuristic amusement park where dinosaurs are brought to life through advanced cloning techniques It's called Billy and the Clonosaurus. Because Apu's like, oh, please, first you think of an idea that's already been done, and then you give it a name that no one could possibly like. Cutting to like, bestseller list for 15 months. Every magazine comes. Most popular movie of all time, sir. What were you thinking?
That's awesome. Well, Patrick, do you want to continue this like high, this peak that we're at here with talking about great movies?
I would love to, but that is not how time has sort of laid itself out in front of our movie list, unfortunately. We're going to be dealing with the future again. But RoboCop 3, the RoboCop's gets his groove back. I don't know what the subtitle is. But
all I know is there's a jetpack. That's the only thing I know about RoboCop 3.
He's getting that much closer to Iron Man. But from Jurassic Park to RoboCop 3, I feel like I'm gonna, what is that? The bends. We're gonna have dive down too
whiplash.
far, come up too soon.
Yeah.
It's definitely change in elevation as far as movie quality goes. I'm assuming. I've never seen RoboCop 3. I may have seen a snippet by mistake here and there, but I could be thinking of the RoboCop movie or TV show.
Oh yeah.
So I
guess we'll find out. Yeah.
Come back for RoboCop 3,
please.
We're watching it for you, so you don't have to. But I'm savoring this one. And
Just
hopefully we can just get through RoboCop 3, and then after that,
we got some good stuff after that.
We got Mask of the Phantasm with the Batman.
Nice,
the Crow,
nice.
and then the Shadow, I think, and then something else, and then Mask of the Phantasm. So,
that's a pretty. That's a nice peak to go out on 93 on.
Appropriately, we have the Mask, and then Mask of the Phantasm. So, yeah, it'll be a fun little journey into 1994. But got to get through RoboCop 3 first. So, let's Niall. Thank you so much for joining us, and why don't you tell people all about Batminute and where they can find that excellent show. I'm from Batminute, which is a show that does what Travis, what you did with Watchmen not too long back, by going through each of the Batman films from 1989 onwards, 1 minute at a time. And you've been on the show a couple of times, and we have loads of guests on. It's great fun. We just finished Batman Forever. I still can't quite wrap my head around the fact that we're finished Batman Forever now, because it's like, I don't know, it seems so far in the future, and now it's done. And it's like, oh my god. And then you turn around, it's like, well, what's left? Oh god. So, the Iceman cometh.
I'm hoping I'm thinking Batman and Robin is going to be great fun, because we're just there to make fun of it. So
how can it not be a good time?
Yeah, and so if people are interested, you got 3 whole seasons. We also got a bunch of hiatus episodes up where we covered each of the Prince movies. We covered the Catwoman movie with Halle Berry at one point. I believe you guys will be getting that down the line eventually.
Oh yeah.
Now we're on hiatus as well. We'll be doing we'll have a bunch of new hiatus projects popping up over the upcoming months here. And as I mentioned way back at the beginning there, that Travis alluded to as well, we also recently did a table read of the 1984 Batman script from Tom Mankiewicz, which is the film that sort of was drastically altered to become Tim Burton's Batman. And Tom Mankiewicz guy wrote a bunch of Bond movies and the Superman movie and Lady Hawk and stuff like that. And we did a table read. Myself, Travis, you were there as well. Did a couple of parts, and loads and loads of fun. And you can get we could get it. I probably still can get it through the links that were put up for Movies by Minute at home. When that festival was on a couple of weeks back. But you can, if you want a quicker way to get to it, you can get to it to it through the Batminute Patreon as well. We've got it up there now. So, but yeah. So, if people want to get in touch, as we're on Batminute at Twitter, and we have the Batminute Listeners Cave on Facebook, and yeah, you just we're available through all good podcatchers. So, if it at all interests you, I highly recommend getting on board.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, thanks for joining us, and I guess we'll Patrick and I will be back with RoboCop 3. But until then, hold on to your butts.
477 to dispatch. We have a code 3.
He was state-of-the-art in law enforcement technology.
You called for backup?
But the system thinks he's become too independent.
He disobeyed a direct order. I want to know why.
His friend was in trouble and he made a judgment call.
Too unpredictable.
They're saying he's gone underground.
Oh, there goes our PR budget.
Too human.
We have a warrant out for the arrest of Robocop.
Now the system's out to get him. Because he's fighting for the people.
Stay here! Fight for your home! If you want to get in there, you're going to have to shoot through us.
I don't have a huge problem with that.
Get them for me.
I promise.
All right, Mr. Robocop. Come and get me.
I must commandeer your vehicle for police use.
What is your problem, sucker? I mean, officer?
I hope you are insured.
I thought your damn ninja was supposed to take care of Robocop for me.
You are under arrest for assaulting an officer and destruction of police property. You may want to call the fire department.
What, you gone war wacky?
I think I'm in love.
He's taking the future. What? And giving it back to the people. RoboCop 3.
How may I help you, officer?
By resisting arrest.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Find the show on Facebook and Twitter at Real Comic Heroes. All music and audio are the property of their respective creators.